This conference will now be recorded.
What building?
Oh, that was for Roger. Yeah, that's not building maintenance, that's a capital improvement by time.
For the fire department.
Yeah, rebar and frame material for forming.
Anyone else have any questions from the public? Okay. If not, can we have a motion to approve the minutes and the rules?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Approve the minutes for June 20th, 2024 regular board meeting and the July 11th, 2024 special board meeting. In addition, approve the bills for the month of June 2024.
I second that.
Roll call.
Evans,
Aye.
David Summer,
Aye.
Michael Flores,
Aye.
Michael Bougie,
Aye.
Jack Hargit.
Aye.
Okay, moving ahead. Correspondence and discussion item.
Yeah, the first item would be correspondence with the county. I reached out to Lieutenant Dr. McCall with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, and he said he was working on the hill fire in Willow Creek, and he may not be able to make it today, so he's not currently online, so he cannot make it. Any other- There's nobody else online. We're potentially gonna hear from the county roads department too, but I guess they're not here. Next one.
Okay.
So, yes, I will move on to the next item about district strategic planning. So this, I'm gonna be trying to carry this over every month as we develop this new strategic plan. Just to, once again, provide the background on that. The purpose of the strategic plan is to reaffirm the mission, vision, and core values of the district. A strategic plan outlines priorities and integrates them with work plans to guide the efforts of each district department in implementing these priorities. These strategic priorities are shaped by the direction, insights, and expertise of the district board of directors and our staff. District staff are currently working on a new strategic plan. A new plan is needed to guide the district's efforts over the next 5 years and beyond. It will provide clear direction and ensure that district policies are updated and relevant. A new plan will also serve the community effectively and responsibly. Attached to this board report, the draft part of the new district strategic plan encompassing the mission, vision, and core values of the district. Future meetings will present individual work plans and goals for each district department. So if you had a chance to look at it, Nick was very helpful in this one too, helping to create this. There's a letter to the GM office, our mission statement. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read that. Mission statement. The mission of the Resort Improvement District, number one, is to provide, improve, and expand water, power, wastewater, recreation, and emergency response services, while enhancing the quality of life for residents and visitors of Shelter Cove. So if we can stick to that mission, I think we're going to be doing a great job. So we're going to be moving forward with our strategic plan and guide it into each department and focus it that way. And we'll have more information in future meetings.
Any discussion from the board?
Not for me.
I think it's great. I mean, it's definitely what we need. We've been needing to get together our strategic plan for the last year. So yeah.
It's a top priority to start moving the district forward to where it needs to be. I think it's where we have to go. I took a webinar on strategic planning yesterday, which was kind of interesting, as to how you go about it and what needs to be addressed in it. So I think we just got to keep forward motion going on this and get it in effect as quickly as we can, so we know where we're headed. It will definitely impact next year's budget as we look ahead. You have
Yeah,
comments?
yeah, just some comments. Yes, definitely, this is very much needed as we move forward with our bigger projects and improving and maintaining and improving the quality of life for all of us out here. I know that we will be in the future, we'll be needing to plan some, do a lot of public outreach to make sure people in the community, even the residents who aren't here at the meetings or may not log on to watch these meetings, just making sure that they know that we're going to be looking at the strategic plan, and it would be a great opportunity for them to help contribute what they, with ideas and what they would like to see the direction of the code going. So definitely public outreach is going to be very important here in the near future. And then also for the board members that haven't done the strategic plan webinar yet, I really encourage you to do so. And even staff members, as it does lay out, how we should be running the strategic plan meetings and whatnot. So other than that, I think it looks really good. I love the district core values of resiliency, integrity, and dependability. I think that really does capture the essence of what the district strives to maintain. So yeah, I love it. Thank you. What you've presented so far thus far. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right.
Moving forward, we'll definitely, I'm going to say strategic. The strategic plan will definitely help us prioritize the larger projects, funding, budget, help us budget these larger projects, like for instance, water treatment plant, water tanks, electric fuse replacements, those kinds of things. So vehicles. So as we talk about these issues, having a plan will definitely guide us into how we replace, repair these items, manage.
Is there any public comment on the strategic plan? Okay, moving along. Chris, I believe this is you again, talking about the organizational chart.
And so, about this time last year, the district went through an organizational change. Staff were moved within departments, job titles were modified, and job descriptions were updated. The goal was to improve efficiency, accountability, communication, and fiscal responsibility. Along with these changes, management staff created a draft organizational chart. The organizational chart is intended to enhance productivity, increase transparency, and reduce staff anxiety or confusion over their roles and responsibilities. The organizational chart also empowers staff by providing clear routes for promotion. The draft organizational chart was presented at the November 2023 regular board meeting as an action item, though no action was taken at that time. This was primarily because of staff transitions and the allowance for new staff to weigh in on the chart before making a policy. The purpose of this discussion item is to consider making the organizational chart a district policy. Management staff have reviewed the draft chart, revised and updated as necessary, and all staff have acclimated to its structure. Making this chart policy will further encourage efficiency and management oversight. It will also empower all staff in their respective roles and fortify their responsibilities in operational decisions, thereby reducing gaps in accountability and communication. The organizational chart also serves as a display tool to compare current district staffing to standard minimum safe staffing levels. Also, just as any district policy, the organizational chart can be modified or updated as needed. So our recommendation here is to consider bringing the organizational chart back before the board at the next regular meeting in August as an action item to codify the organizational chart into the district policy. And attached, we have sort of a template of a policy reading on this and the draft organizational chart, which will require further discussion by the board before we make it a policy.
Looking at the organizational chart, the only question I had, or the comment I had, was in power utility. I thought we had spoken last year about adding a general laborer there, and I know it would be a vacant position.
Yeah.
But I'd really like to see that we have all the staffing that everybody needs for safety. Even if the positions are vacant, I would like to make sure that we have them there so that they're able to be filled when we can find people or as needed to utilize that position. So, you know, the only one that jumped out at me was a general laborer for power.
Okay. You can add that.
Okay, thanks.
Can they cross-utilize the general labor from water, wastewater?
Or administrative.
Yeah, or administrative.
So administrative is from Parks and Rec, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I would assume that one would be kind of more of a lateral swap.
Well, that's, you know, and I can understand that that's maybe all what we do for a while, but
Mhm.
I'd like to see if this is going to be codified into a policy that we at least allow for those positions to be there, whether they're filled or they're budgeted for at this point or not. I do think we probably should budget for them going into next year, but it just, my opinion is that we ought to actually have them on the chart in case we can fill these positions.
Fair enough. I got something. So how well has this been received by staff in the last year since we've been moving forward with it? Is it well received?
I think staff are still adjusting to it. I mean, we have a few, right?
Yeah, some of the older crew members are adjusting to it, but
Okay. But superintendents are okay with it, with the workload and everything like that?
we're still overloaded right now. We're trying to apply some positions at this time.
Okay.
That's part of the issue right now.
Okay.
Not having enough staff to take care of everything. And there's the other problem we're having is licensing of the people that are on the out in the field right now. The various licensing problems and people not wanting to get them. As soon as we get that all taken care of and people in place, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of some more retirement coming out here shortly with one of the staff. So.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
I'm really curious what the word adjusting means.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a change.
Yeah.
Change is hard. And I think it's helpful for staff to realize how to report what their responsibilities are. You know, there was a way that the district operated and we're trying to make it more official. So it's a different transition.
Okay. Comment. I haven't worked with org charts recently, but all the ones I've seen had lines of responsibility, primary and secondary. Can we have those on there?
Yeah, we can add that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is a good visual representation. We are lacking the written representation to it, because even in the policy itself, it says you need a visual and a written, so we are lacking that. Because basically from what I'm seeing here, and unless we are intending to change, I'm seeing the general manager and the fire chief as equal, responding to the board. And I know in written policy as it is now, general manager is under the board, responds to the board, and the fire chief is among the other supervisors. So if that's the intent, great, but we need to clarify that in the written terminology as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like that's the intent, and that's going to require a lot more further discussion.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with Jan that I think it is important that we put in another general laborer in there under the power utility, that can maybe bounce back and forth to wastewater utility. The general laborer under the administration office, you know, we really do need somebody on the golf course and in recreation that isn't continually being pulled off. so that we can maintain our recreation facilities better. Also, getting to what you were saying, Jack, about the general manager and the fire chief, that is the big difference that I'm seeing on this particular chart. And from my point of view, I do believe that that is a good change for the better. I think that the general manager and the fire chief are both equally have as much responsibility, and that by the fire chief being under the board of directors, it takes something off your plate as a general manager. The fire chief is going above and beyond and is pretty much doing on his end the job of a general manager for the fire department. So I do think that's a good change, and I think the intent is to, moving forward, getting everything written down into a district policy that we can codify.
I think we'll have to get that written. If we're bringing it back next month, we'll get that written out because we'll have to change the general manager job description and probably the fire chief description. But for the public to understand, Nick has his own tax dollars that come in, which he is responsible to us for, and he does his own budgeting, his own management of reserves, his own going out and getting business. So it's kind of a standalone department, sort of has been. And I think it's really important we modify this and get it into the books. I think it is good to get one more thing off your plate, Chris, so that you don't have to manage that many people. But for the most part, trying to manage a fire system or a fire department is kind of beyond the purview of any general manager unless they're extensively experienced in firefighting. That's why I think it really is important to pull this aside. I've felt this for ever since I got on the board and was looking at how things are handled. It's really important that we know that it's a very different department from running a utility company and Parks and Rec.
Nick, do you have anything that you would want to add with that?
Yeah, so this is going to be a process. Really, if you look back at all the RID policies, besides the ones that we did the last year or two, definitely not mentioned any of them. So when we go through, we're currently working, I'd say we're probably 75% on a brand new policies and procedures manual for the impact fire department. That would, however, you guys decide to integrate it into the RID, and it could be an appendix, it could be its own policy. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now. This step one is actually how we're going to organize the fire department within the RID. The fire department has taken on a life of its own the last 5 or 6 years, to where we are doing grants, we're doing 5 and 10 year plans, and the capacity of the RID utility side, the fire department will weigh heavily on what they can do in the future with their own larger grants. Currently, we don't have 4 or 5 other $1 million, multi-million-dollar grants going on, and that's kind of where we need to go to replace a lot of the infrastructure that we have to replace. We talked about the GRIP grant last year at $50-something million over however many years. I don't think the capacity is there for that overall with the fire department and where the fire department wants to go as well. So instead of picking and choosing which departments are going to get more attention, it's our intent to branch, stay very much within the RID. That's been one of my missions as taking over fire chief, to branch back with the RID and fix that relationship, because I think we do complement each other for the community, especially. And so there's no intent of separating the fire department from the RID. That ship has sailed 15, 20 years ago. We got through our really dark times with the fire department when we came in and turned in our helmets, back in the day, like one of my first meetings. And so we don't want to see that again. We want to see organization, we want to see policies and procedures that actually apply to the fire department, that are in line with other fire departments in the state. And this is the first step of that process. And it's going to be a long process, just like we've seen with the RID policy, but rejuvenating that as well is kind of a good time to start looking into all of that and where we fit in the district itself. So I do support it. I think it is going to be a process. It's not just going to happen by putting Chris and me in the same level on the organizational chart. There's going to be a lot more, and that goes with the whole entire organizational chart. Like Jack nailed it. Having an actual explanation of what this means to the layman's person is huge. What are the responsibilities of the fire chief? What are the responsibilities of the superintendent for power, water, admin? We are missing that right now. And we have our job descriptions of like, what are we supposed to do, but not necessarily what are our responsibilities. And I think this will go hand in hand with that. So this isn't going to be something that's done very easily, and it's going to take a discussion with the liaisons and the utilities to come in and see, exactly why does John, you want a groundman or a general laborer, is it justified? And we do have to take some more time on this because it's going to be the structure of the district, hopefully for a long time. So I think we're off to a great start, but I think it is going to take some more time that we're going to have to put into this.
I got something. So is this level of responsibility normal for a fire chief in a volunteer fire department?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, normally volunteer fire departments are their own district. They're not connected at all. So there's a lot more that as I go into the admin and digging into it with the fire department here, where we kind of deviated from that, not having a fire district, where we are a resort improvement district. Right now we have one funding source that comes from the county, and which is our special tax. So we don't get a county allotment of the property tax, which is normal for a special or for a fire district. So there's a lot of other things that if I put on the GM's plate, it would take away from everything else they have to do on water, power, and sewer, and admin and parks. So definitely in line with what other districts of our scale are doing. If you compared us to a smaller district that runs 5 or 6 calls, they might not be doing the same amount. But where we want to do in the standard that we've already set for the community and the fire department, I think it is definitely warranted. We talked about that with the hiring of the full-time chief. So yeah, and any questions you guys have or you guys want to see in the daily scope or the monthly scope of what we do, feel free to come in.
So if we had to replace you, heaven forbid, you hit the lottery, is this something that another fire chief could come in and not be overwhelmed? He'd be like, okay, this is standard procedure?
I think that's where we're going for our size. I think it depends. So if you hire a smaller chief, we're working on our own replacement structure within the district. And a big step will be hiring a chief duty officer to have a part-time position that basically works with me and learns. And I do think that it would be, if you had to bring, let's say the GM had to cover if I left, that's where it would be apples to apples. I don't think a GM at what you guys hire the GM for the district will be able to come in and run the fire department in my absence. And that's where the big difference is. Where the superintendents within the utility guys should be able to jump in and be able to run the GM's position because that's what they do with the utility manager within the district. Obviously, they're going to have more experience and seniority, and hopefully they bring that to the table. But the fire chief is a whole different realm. There's different policies, procedures on the state level. There's different stuff that we deal with. There's different trainings. Really, just the paperwork and then talking to you guys is the only similarity between Chris and I's job right now. So. Yeah, I do think it depends who you pick, just like the GM. There's GMs out there that are much bigger in smaller districts that wouldn't fit what our ID does.
Right.
We do have some uniqueness to us, but we're trying really hard to find those other departments that we're closer to and meet that standard. So it is, applicable across the state. And we're starting to see that the more we get out of our little Shelter Cove bubble of what we do that's about the same in the state standard and what we do is a little bit different. So that's part of our out of district response to getting that.
Okay, thank you.
Any public comment?
Just stay up there.
In the golf course, I say that you need to have somebody trained for it. And as a general laborer, you're going to advance them. So definitely the supervisor of the golf course needs to get the training so he can pass that along.
I would like to reiterate the recreation portion of this. I'm looking at the nameplates and I don't see who's in charge of that bucket. Who is in charge of the recreation portion of the RID? Just for my opinion.
Water, sewer, and the admin, but right now it's mostly on the water and sewer.
And recreation, has it always been like, has there ever been a recreation
That's what
bucket?
we're trying to separate right now
With the org chart.
with the org chart.
If we don't see the org chart, I will lobby for a few people underneath that recreation that can help to maintain the golf course. Because there are a fair amount of people in the Cove that would like to use the facility. And we would like the facility to be up to the level that it should be, and I feel like that it used to be. And I'm bummed I was late for the open comment, but I'll kind of weasel some of that in right now. The golf course used to have a lot more love, I feel, and I feel like there's not a lot of love at the golf course, and that's why I'm kind of curious who's in charge of the golf course. And so thank you for creating a bucket for the golf course, because then we will have an umbrella of people that might help out the golf course. But I'm learning so much more and more about how great and awesome it used to be, and where the out of bounds stakes are. It's just covered with grass, and I'm not really hitting out of bounds. It just needs to be maintained. And I'm here to help lead the charge. If I've heard rumor of volunteer efforts maybe go in there, weed whack a little bit.
You need to get together with the golf association because that's part of what.
So that's awesome. I don't know what the golf association is, and I'm just hoping, I love this new newsletter. The color is awesome, but could we have a golf update paragraph somewhere on here so that we know that there is some attention going to that golf course? Because another thing I was gonna say, and I'm not complaining, I'm just talking, is I wanted to buy a golf pass in July because I called Maureen a couple of months ago and she said, no, we're not selling them right now. They go on sale in July. Sweet. I was so excited for July to buy my season pass, and there's not a lick of information about how to do that. And I would think that that's how you generate money for the golf course. So here I am willing to scratch a check, and I don't know anything about what's going on. And so that being said, a little conversation on this monthly newsletter would also be helpful to let me know how that sandbox debacle is going to get resolved, because a fair amount of tourists in town last week asking what that was, and hard to tell them without laughing what that was. But I don't even know who to have the conversation with, because I don't see. So I'm happy about the org chart. I would love to see a recreation representative.
I would hope people would remember too, though, that Parks and Rec is not just a golf course.
I hear that.
Remember that. We have things going on.
In a clubhouse.
That's exactly right. There's so much more than just the golf course. And maybe there's gonna be some pickleball courts, and maybe there can be some love to the
We have
horseshoes.
to keep it real board.
And the
We have a pickleball section coming up.
Yeah, so
It's
we'll
not
Tons
the org chart.
and tons of recreation opportunities. not
maybe a
just the golf.
multi-course.
If I could, Wendy, I would also suggest, I think, Arlen, you're hearing this, aren't you a part of the Golf Association?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Like any nugget of info
Yeah.
about the golf.
So, yeah, I know Todd Athey is a part of that. I thought, Arlen, you were, but apparently you're not. But I think you can help her, steer her in the right direction as far. We just signed an MOU with the Golf Association for helping do maintenance and projects at the upkeep, because we do need help. We're very short-staffed. So that was just done, was that last month? Anyway, it's been done. So, or if you want to talk to me after the meeting, I'll connect you with Todd and you guys can go from there.
We're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
I don't wanna get off topic.
We're already way off topic. It's about the organizational chart,
I know
not on the
that
Parks and Rec.
organizational chart will solve all these dilemmas, because talking to Todd and
Yes.
I think your org chart is.
All right.
Any other comments? Okay, let's move ahead to the board member and staff reports. Basically, do any of the directors want to report on what
I
they're
do.
involved in?
So what I wanted to talk about today is Fourth of July is still fresh in our memories. I would like to see the community, the board, the RID staff all start to talk about and think about a way for us to find a safer 4th of July for the community here. If we could find some type of drone show, laser light show, or something that could take away from just waiting to see if we're going to burn to the ground because of all these fireworks that light our hills on fire. I think it's a conversation that we all need to have about our community. We all worry about fires. You know, if you want to blow off fireworks, come out in January for New Year's and blow stuff off. I mean, nothing will burn then. So personally, I get a little anxious around 4th of July. But while it's fresh in our minds, it's something that we should start to think about to find a safer way for us to celebrate the 4th of July here in the Cove. We live here. This is our home. We don't want it to burn to the ground. So it's just something to discuss, or finding a way to do a fundraiser throughout the year to raise money for a laser light show or something that we all could enjoy that's safe. That's all I have.
We can have a discussion about that.
I would love that.
I might as well go ahead. I did a webinar on both the strategic plan and the board chair responsibilities. I reviewed accounting reports. I've assigned policies to directors to review. And I've got some other discussions for things that I found in reviewing various reports. A lot of time with that. I'm sure you have some questions.
Yeah, so met with the staff and the general manager a couple times throughout the month. Attended the sports court informal meeting, and there'll be further discussion on that topic later on in the action items. Attended the U.S. Coast Guard 30-year memorial service, and that was a very somber and sobering event that really, you know, just really hit home and reminded, I mean, we know this, but it really reminded me on how dangerous the Lost Coast is for our rescue, for our personnel that are in the fire department and with ocean rescues in particular, how dangerous it really can be, and, you know, how even our own personnel, fire department personnel, they do risk their lives when responding to those types of calls. And then, I mean, I did the surf barbecue, but that I would have done that anyway. And then I have began going over the district policies that have been given to me to review. And so I'll have more info on that for the next meeting. There might be other things in there, but for the most part, that's it.
I had a quick meeting with Chris, and I also attended the Coast Guard memorial. That memorial was surprisingly intense. It was, I'm glad I was there. It was by invitation only, I believe. Is that right, Chris? The board and the fire department.
Yeah, it was primarily for the family and friends of the victims that I said. That's how it was told from the U.S. Coast Guard.
As Tasha said, it was real sobering. The first thing that got me was the conditions were the same as they were 30 years ago. Initially, a Coast Guard helicopter was supposed to land at the lighthouse, but it couldn't because it wasn't safe because of the fog. And that's what had happened 30 years ago. So it really put all of us there in the context of what really happened. And it was really dangerous, like she said. This is a really nice place to be, but it's a really stupid, it's a dangerous place to be stupid. It really is. And I don't know how we can impress that upon new people and tourists, but it is. Anyway, get past that. Also, we have an agenda item on a request for variance on an easement. And some time walking that particular lot and looking at the situation and talking to some of the staff about it. And then last month, we talked about assigning all the policies that needed to be reviewed to each of us. And I think I got 7 of them and started reviewing them. It was really an eye opener. We have some, it ranges from really good policies to ones that are at least worthless, maybe dangerous to have on the book. So I think as a board, we have to make some decisions what we're going to do about this. Come up with something like a uniform format. And even more than that, but that's pretty much what my month was.
Well, I'm sure Chief will speak on to what I've been doing, but I did have the opportunity to work with our great guys and gals with the fire department for the last week. We were on a cover assignment for CAL FIRE. Originally got dispatched out to Whitethorn, and then immediately as the crew got there, they got transferred over to Garberville, where they sat. Chief actually was running the crew for the first couple of days till I transferred in on last Wednesday, which was the day that the Alder Point fire came out, and your Shelter Cove crew was first on scene. And we ended up fighting that fire for the initial attack for about 13 hours. We got off that fire about 8 o'clock in the morning. Gave us a mandatory 24 down, and then we were back for the next 2 days doing mop up for 12 hours a day during the day shift. It was we had a couple other experiences during our week or so doing the cover assignment. Had another small fire our last day, but these opportunities are fantastic for our crew. It's experience that they thankfully can't get in the Cove. We had an 85-acre plus fire out there in Alder Point, moving pretty decently, and it's an experience that none of our firefighters had seen at that point, and it's something that we don't want them to experience. An 85-acre fire here in Shelter Cove. That's potentially 160 homes if we were really built out. So yeah, that could have a massive impact on our community. So thank you to the community for supporting the fire department. Thank you to the board for allowing the fire department to be at the capacity to do this. These trainings or these opportunities for cover assignments, they're invaluable. Not only do they keep our firefighters employed, we do get financial compensation. We get paid by the state and such when we're out on these fires. So it does offer an alternative career path of sorts. But it also gives them invaluable training that they can't get from just doing our Wednesday night drills and going to classes and such. So yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and you guys have a great crew with your fire department. I'm very proud of all the women and men who were with us that day. They all did a fantastic job throughout the entire assignment. So yeah, you guys should be really proud of those guys.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know probably, I don't know if this is the right place to say it, but I think the board appreciates everything you've done for all the years you've been in service to us, but I think it's great that you're moving on to something you absolutely are passionate about.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to begin doing what I love.
I'm going to miss Jack being on the board. He always does his homework, he knows everything that we're going to cover. And besides that, he picks up more little nitpicking punctuation than I do.
Okay, any public comment on anything the directors have been doing? Do you want to take over with your team?
Yeah, so I'll start the staff reports with the general manager activities for the month of June. Special board meeting for my performance evaluation, ended that. Worked on the strategic plan, reviewed and edited Updated the district policy 2010, which is the employee handbook for non-union staff. Completed paperwork and conducted site visits of the Lot W well grant funded project on Little Glen Road. Researched methods for collecting closed past due accounts. We'll be talking about a little bit later. Research ways to invest through a CalPERS trust account for making future annual unfunded accrued liability debt payments, which we'll also be talking about. Worked on annual staff evaluations and employee development plans. Researched and coordinated with Zoe on procuring a new district CPA. Attended the Scarf Labyrinth dedication and ceremony. Corresponded with engineers SHN and the informal sports court committee on the grant funded sports court project. Attended the annual airport inspection by the California Department of Transportation Division of Aeronautics. And correspondence and meetings on the potential relocation of the children's book nook from the library into the first 5-room playroom of the clubhouse. So there's potential for that move, investigating that. I'll also like to note, might see a new face on the table here. I did want to say that Zoe Wilcox, Administrative Superintendent, this will be her last board meeting. She's been fantastic at the job. Couldn't have asked for better. And we're really happy for her to transition to where she wants to go, but we'll be sad to see her go. But we're also happy for Jessica DeKelver to start as our new Administrative Superintendent. You see her today, so just wanted to announce that. Thank you.
Hey, so quick transition into my duties, and I just wanted to mention that I absolutely adore this community. The board, the staff are amazing. Just wasn't the right fit for me in the job, and I know Jessica will be great. And that's and I worked on composing an RFP for a request for proposal for accounting services that was sent out to the top rated California Specialist District Association CPA recommendations, and discuss district CPA needs with the interested CPA from Fetcher and Company. They worked with a lot of special districts, so they'll bring in that experience to do the annual audits and get those done. Attended the CalPERS pre-funding webinar on the SEPT accounts and coordinated with customer outreach for more information and certified the presentations and will be in the action items. We'll have an expert come in and explain the SEPT accounts in a little more detail. Met with the GM and Collection Bureau of America in a Teams meeting to discuss the process of collections and costs. Conducted billing software research based on options and needs with recommendations including Flex, Mountain Software, Ampston, Tyler Technologies, and Castle. This is, we didn't budget this. It's just more so research to see if we can move into a modernized billing system that would be easier on staff and as well as customers to be able to look up account information easily. So that's kind of more in the future, but just starting the research now. Drafted administrative strategic plan, submitted the Western Administrative Power Association small customer plan that's required every year. Attended the CSBA website, Is Your District Using the Cloud to Increase Efficiency workshop. Met with the first 5 to discuss the community center lower area usage and setup. Attended the airport annual inspection with the GAM. Completed the sports court progress report for the California Department of Parks and Recreation that was due. Prepared reports and board package. Attended various meetings, including with the board and supervisors. Updates to the district website. Coordinated pre-employment testing for the new administrative superintendent. The office completed payroll billing and continued to digitalize and scan the files to the shared drives so we can get those electronically. And updated the new annual utility rates for billing and posted it to the new increases effective.
Okay, thank you. Frank, would you like to go on water risk?
For last month, we did a lot of calibrations. We had all our meters calibrated, the water and sewer departments, our chlorine, pH analyzer, water. Change out membranes, electrolytes, and that goes in there. And calibrate that also. We did our annual GCHM and HLA 5 sampling, the little trihalo methanes and haloacidic acid. Still working on different SCADA outlets and meeting with iWesco this last month. We're trying to put together a couple different ideas on where we're gonna go with our SCADA system. As Chris mentioned earlier, we had a well driller here from Wall Glen going our new, we'll call them Lot W3 right now. We had a blowout on Redwood Road and Hickory Road. We replaced the hydrant there last month also. Down lower spots. We had a couple of electric companies out here looking at a possible installation for electrical cabinet for new well site. We replaced some parts on a meter after the county mowed it over on Albatross. We had another hydrant that's leaking on the south side of the airport. Right now it's off, and we'll get it a little bit later time. We replaced finally, but we completed the consumer conference reports and that in the state, busted up the office here and the Shelter Cove general store. Cleaner contact chamber at the wastewater plant. It's just sprayed down some leads with vinegar and salt solutions. Clean out our disc press tank and the pump inlets. We installed a new Headworks flow meter and tested our high wash and shower stations. And then on a golf course, we got some quotes for the new mower reels and used mower reels. And at this time, looks like we're going to be ordering the slightly used motor reels. So we're going to get the new motor reels for our green thrower. We should have those coming here pretty quick. I had a meeting with the children's play group along with Chris there and Zoe. The guys worked on the airport weed eating and scraping, so semi-clean with weeds. Dylan's been out there a lot with Cobra management, and then checking the sprinklers on the golf course and the golf cups. The holes have been moved regularly by the golf association. So that's all I've got for last month.
All right, thanks, Frank.
We're done and
John, you want to go with the cover duration?
So last month we had a planned outage on the island to replace pole, replaced 3 poles. Service set disconnect for a customer panel change at a service call for half hour. And then disconnected the service at Joe Well to replace the roof. And we had an outage on the fire line. And then for the S&C electric fuse maintenance, that's for the new fuses that we're buying. So that was from this year's budget. I'm going to order them a year ahead. So that's what that is. And the bills.
All right, thanks, John. Fire department.
in June, we have mainly spent gearing up for the 4th of July. Our call volume does uptake during the summer with the influx of tourism that we get out here. Obviously, we're transitioning into more of a recreation and fishing tourism activity, right? We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing more people going to BLM trails. We're seeing more people down the beaches, black sands. We spent a lot of time this month telling people not to go in the water, including snorkelers on black sands. We've been there before. So as stuff changes within the community, we're not a special little hidden area anymore. People can find us on the internet, and we're seeing that. It's up to the community, the fire chief, to please be ambassadors to the community for safety and tell people, all you can do is tell them. If they're going to say, I'm going to do it anyway, thanks for your concern, and to go in there and go snorkeling, we'll deal with them later. probably with the helicopter and a boat. So please just keep that up. I 100% agree with Director Solari, and we do need to come up with a solution or an alternative for the 4th of July. I think that's more of a tourism conversation with a larger scope. You know, we have a lot of activities that go on, including the parade that everybody loves so much. You know, I think it's the Cheryl Anthony 50-year parade this year. So that's not sanctioned by anybody. It's something the community does, but just like the trunk or treat at the White House, we need to find sponsoring organizations for those types of events, just for pure safety and accountability. 4th of July event down at the beach, again, the fire department's hands are tied when it comes to enforcement. We tried it after the houses were burnt on Little Black Sands, and it was out of control as people lighting fireworks off up in the cul-de-sacs and everywhere else. This year, we only had a couple of fireworks off the beach. It was definitely a success in that aspect. But as you guys saw in Crescent City, it's not even about just fires. There's a little kid that got blown up with 2 collapsed lungs and coded in the helicopter. So stuff that we've seen in Shelter Cove that we've been fortunate not to have major injuries. We've had that exact same scenario on the boat ramp 3 or 4 years ago. So there's a lot more discussion that has to be had with that, and I look forward to the discussion. Functionally, the fire department's functioning, you know, at a top level. We're constantly trying to keep up with maintenance and firefighter training and all the same stuff that any other utility in the district is keeping up with, but we're doing fairly well. Financial decisions and financial questions are always part of the district, and it's the fire department as well. You got to have money to make money, and we've been leveraging a lot of money on our grants, and keeping up with that is going to be the hardest thing going forward, to have the money in the account. So we only get money twice a year from the county, and keeping up on that is one of those capacity issues that we're running into with our larger grants. So it's my job to try and get as many advances as we can, but then the day-to-day expenses, reimbursing the firefighters for the work they put in, we got to wait till we get paid by the state and OES for that as well. So managing all that is definitely a full-time job. So without responding to calls. But we're still responding to calls. We're still maintaining our under 7-minute response time. During this time of year, we're well under 5. And then we have our sleeper program been a success as well. So we were able to send the crew out 4 staff with one of our engines and still have plenty of people and plenty of engines back in the code to protect the code. And that's something we've very rarely been able to do before. So I repeat what Jack said, to thank the board and the community to allow us to do that. Last thing is the grant. So the USDA grant is live right now on the website. So you can either go into the office and pick up the flyer, scan the QR code, but you do have to sign up on the website. That's the only current way to sign up right now. There's a link to a form. Fill that form up and it automatically registers you for the inspection. So Trees Foundation is our partner. They're coming out. They've already hired their inspectors. So they're professional state technicians. They come out, they survey your house, and that creates a work order, and you could be eligible for up to $3,000 to clear 100 foot of buildable space around your house. Every home in Shelter Cove is eligible, and we're going to be doing another 2,800 lots after we get the home done. So the only way to do that is to go on the website and sign up. We have about 115 people signed up right now. Our goal is 300 by September, so we need to get about another uptick, if not half. Any questions you guys have, please contact Trees, myself. We don't want to influx the office ladies. They have enough going on. It's very self-explanatory. The directions are on there. The link is automatic on our website. As soon as you go to the fire department website, which is the RID website, USDA link's right on there. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to fill out the form. Then they'll contact you and come do an inspection. Those folks in the room have already had their inspections. So very, very excited. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance for Shelter Cove to clear every single house, and it is going to be based on community involvement. So if the community doesn't sign up, then we can't get you guys on that list. We can't clear the houses. So make sure you guys sign up for that. Again, every single house in the community, it's just weed whacking or cleaning your gutters. It's worth it. So, and then obviously some houses are going to have a lot more work on that. But that's pretty much it for the fire department.
Okay, that concludes our operational status reports. Any questions from the board or public?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the sprinkler on the tee box at Pool 9 is.
Anyone else have any comments or questions for the superintendent?
I do.
Okay.
Getting back to the golf, are we, where are we on that project for the tee boxes?
We're on hold right now. We're on hold until we have some more time to get to them. We put the boxes where they were marked for the people, so they were all previously marked by the Park People and Golf Association, so we're trying to get to it when we have spare time, but probably not gonna be till next year.
Next what?
Next year.
Next year. Is there, but you are coordinating with the golf association, or is there?
We've talked with them. We haven't started any of the removing them or anything like that, so.
Planning, plan, schedule that one.
Yeah. A while ago, Mike mentioned 4th of July and Nick has too. I have a question, how do we proceed on getting this started? I mean, it was nice to say we ought to do it, but how do we get started on this?
Are you talking different options for a larger event?
Right.
I think,
Well, for controlling the safety.
yes, I think it goes back to the alternative. We discussed that years and years and years ago when Sal was still around, was for us to go down and enforce shutting down fireworks on that beach, we have to have an alternative. And it's going to take time to build that culture. The culture at Shelter Cove, if you come out to Shelter Cove, have a great time on the beach on 4th of July and light off a bunch of legal fireworks. There wasn't a single legal firework getting lit off down there. So anything that goes up in the air is illegal. There's very few legal fireworks. The safe and sane area is what we do for our alternative, and that was just to keep kids out of that area and give the family members an alternative. As that grows, right now, that's at their own cost. We don't provide fireworks for that. People bring their own fireworks and they do them there. I would like to see something larger. Eureka does, they do fireworks in Denver, like 109 degrees in dry grass. So I think we do have a better location for those, but you're always going to have people that have contrary opinions about it, right? It's going to affect dogs, affect animals if we do large ones. Some people are moving to the drone shows, which are quiet. But the people that like blowing up fireworks don't like the drone shows because they're quiet. So I think it goes back to community involvement. The fire department's going to say, hey, we don't recommend blowing stuff up in July. Right? It's unsafe. The community and the people that bring money in, it is a tourism attraction to be able to come out. I've been coming out since I was a little kid out here before July, so I get that part of it. And it's going to be a conversation between the board and the community. We have the Visit Shelter Cove group now with the tourism, kind of non-unofficial committee. But it goes back to what do we want to do out here, annually? What are these events that the district wants to be a part of? I do think it could be a non-government organization that runs that event, right? It's the Chamber of Commerce and Garberville that does their fireworks display. But I think over time, that alternative, people will come watch the professional display, and the other display will become smaller and smaller. We're already seeing it start to get smaller with just the economy in Shelter Cove is different than it was 10 years ago. So, but the culture of lighting on fire, we sat there for 6 hours, and as soon as we left and went home, somebody went down there, lit off one and went onto the hill and started a fire. So that threat is still out there. We went really hard this year on sending people down the boat ramp, which we usually don't do, to tell people to aim their fireworks over the ocean because of the high tide. Anytime it would start getting back towards the hillside, we would send firefighters down to that chaos, be like, hey, find where they're at and shoot them out. That's because we're getting more experience with dealing with that crowd. One of these years it's going to come to a head again. It did in 2014, and I just don't want to see us miss that opportunity to say, hey, we're not going to burn down. So I think the conversations have to start with where the RID wants to fit into that, because it's not within our mission to provide a fireworks show, but it is. We do have a stake in tourism in Shelter Cove and making sure people come out here. Last year we didn't have rock fishing during 4th of July either, so we need to be more cognizant of what the tourism part of Shelter Cove is, and then how we can do that safely. And for the fire department standpoint is, we'll support anything that's safer than what we have right now. It's not very safe. The model that we have and that we enforce down there is not perfect, but it's worked the last 10 years. However, like Kansas City saw, that's a much larger unsanctioned illegal fireworks show. It's the same thing up there where people know they can go to that beach and light off fireworks. It's still not legal, but it's a lot larger. There's cops standing by. We were fortunate to get 2 law enforcement officers for pretty much the extent of our operations until we left, and then they left as well. And if that wasn't going to happen, we weren't guaranteed that. They were lucky if they found overtime officers to come work. But even then, they weren't writing tickets for illegal fireworks. They weren't confiscating them. It's kind of turned a blind eye because of the scope of that. And that's really what we're going to have to say. And it could be an ordinance to basically make those fireworks illegal. Other areas that the county has them legal, the community has said, nope, we're not doing any fireworks. Or we could do the alternative where we, basically encourage people to come do it at, January. But Shelter Cove in January is not as inviting as it is in July. So there's a lot to talk about with that, but I think it's a discussion that we do need to look at. Even if it's just getting the grade sanctioned is step one. There's a lot to it. But I think it's something that this district's capable of, and maybe talking to the chambers in Garberville and seeing if that's something they're interested in doing. So
I think that maybe the new tourism group would be
Yeah,
interested in
absolutely.
working with it. Maybe Mike, since you kind of came up with the idea, would you be interested in kind of spearheading it? Working with them or trying to see if you can get an organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something but it's a conversation. We also need support from the community. Definitely. I'd like to get the word out and then we need to look at marketing. We need to market whatever we come up with to make that the draw for 4th of July. And then eventually it will hopefully take off and people say, oh, that laser light show out in Shelter Cove, let's go check it out. And they leave the illegal fireworks somewhere else,
It'll take a while. It's not gonna be years.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time. But if we have the conversations and we get a game plan and we start moving forward, eventually it will take hold. But community support is crucial in getting the word out.
I just have a quick, for you, Nick, what was your observation with the amount of trash down there?
it's kind of simple. I was disappointed in the community because I know that a lot of them were locals. It wasn't tourists that were dropping and leaving those fireworks. Because we went down right after everybody left for that fire, and we were running over full boxes of the aerial mortars and stuff like that. And it was getting washed up in the waves and coming back. And, I know Friends of the Lost Coast did a cleanup the next morning, and that would be something else I could recommend the RID could reach out next year and be like, hey, could we support you with our dump truck or anything to help with cleaning that up? And then the community as well, we have to hold ourselves accountable for that. And that was something we put out on our social media before, like come out Shelter Cove, respect it, respect our beautiful, our beaches and our area, but it just happens. People get at the end of the night, everybody got over there when the tide came out, and they all left a lot of their crap behind. So, I was a little bit disappointed as a community member that we allowed that to happen to our beach, and I was really proud of the people that came the next day to clean all that up. But there's a lot of stuff that got swept out in the ocean that we didn't catch. So, and fireworks are pretty nasty on the level of hazardous stuff that's in them that's still in those tubes. So.
Yeah, I think moving forward, like being able to come up with some kind of permitted activity would be helpful. And then for you, Frank, with this last month, we really did experience some really high temperatures that in the last 24 years that I've been here. I haven't seen these temperatures before on Telegraph Creek. I think neighbors had 102 in the shade on Telegraph. And so my question to you is, how do you feel Telegraph Creek is holding up? I hike it frequently, and I noticed a pretty big drop during that time. So
Yeah, with the sun out there, it comes and goes. It depends on the weather, the fog. Right now, we're holding pretty good. After the sun's gone away, but I did notice with the hotter weather, before we got the fog, it was starting to dissipate a lot more. But with the cool temperatures and the fog going back in, the trees aren't soaking up as much water. So we're doing a lot better. But it is about that same time as usual where we start backing off the flows, and we are starting to do again. August, we'll probably be running in the low hundreds for pulling in water, running it 24 hours a day every day.
yeah, and I think it would be helpful to make sure that in our newsletter we're encouraging conservation, water conservation, even if.
That's a California state law also. I think it's a 10% or something like that starting this year. In the state of California, I'm trying to gain water percentages.
Okay. Just reminding people, I think looks can be deceiving, and I know in the past we've been told that we really don't have to worry about our water, but I think that we need to do community outreach and just really encourage conservation. All right, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to move along to action items.
All right, yes, start with action items. Thank you. The first action item is to consider CalPERS SEPT account. So one of my top responsibilities as the general manager is addressing the district's long-term financial obligations, such as the CalPERS unfunded accrued liability, UAL. Recent board action involved accelerating the payment of this debt through a one-time additional discretionary payment. This was accomplished within the past couple months through the district's local agency investment fund account. Staff have recently strategized multiple means to pay future CalPERS UAL payments, which are due every year at this month. The purpose of this action item is to seek board approval for the preferred strategy. Last fiscal year, the district made monthly installments, which involved a 3 to 3.5% increase over a one-time annual payment. This fiscal year, staff budgeted for a one-time annual payment by using the late account, so we saved 3 to 3.5%. This strategy also involves making monthly installments throughout the fiscal year to build up for the following fiscal year's UAL annual payment. The original plan was to invest these monthly installments back into the late account and pull the next annual payment from there next fiscal year. However, staff recently inquired about CalPERS California Employers Pension Pre-Funding Trust. This is a specialized account that CalPERS offers for employers in which to invest for future pension costs, including UAL payments. CalPERS offers two strategies. Strategy 1 is slightly more aggressive with higher returns, while strategy 2 offers less risk with lower returns. Both strategies offer historically greater overall expected return than the late account. Staff recommends initiating a SEPT account to strategically allocate 10 to 20% of the annual payment towards future investments, aiming to generate additional returns for future payments. The monthly installment payment amount will be preserved in late for this fiscal year's payment. This decision is recommended by LAKE's current robust financial performance yielding a stable return of 4% right now, while SEPT holds potential for future use in accumulating savings for lump sum payments with compounding interest. The higher interest rates in LAKE present a more advantageous option for next fiscal year's lump sum payment and future payments. So SEPT is also a longer-term financial plan that may take greater than 5 years to exceed the CalPERS standard rate of 6.8%. SEPT is typically a 10-year investment time horizon, so it's a long-term financial plan. This diversified approach in UAL funding strategies aims to secure the district's capacity to meet future liabilities effectively. Staff also recommends sub-strategy 1, since this is a greater expected return rate right now of 5.4% versus the 4.9% strategy 2, and the risk is relatively low. Also, it was pointed out, I should note that opening the SEPT account is appropriate and applicable according to District Policy 3047, the pension management policy. That policy recommends that the district establish what's called a pension rate stabilization fund, which is exactly what the SEPT account is. And because we're not CalPERS financial experts, we did request for Therese Lowe, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, with CalPERS to provide a pre-funding program presentation for us. So I'm hoping she's here. I don't know if I need to make you a presenter or if you can.
It looks like you do have to make me presenter before I can share. I did put together a presentation for you, but it looks like I need presenter access. Here we go.
Okay.
Right, here we go. If I could just get verbal confirmation that you see this, it's a big blue screen with the district's name on it. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. My name is Therese Luo. I work here at CalPERS in downtown Sacramento in the pre-funding programs division. I work specifically with Section 115 trusts. I'd like to thank the board today for taking the time for me to be able to present this to you. And of course, thank you as well, Zoe, for facilitating this. I do appreciate it. So the purpose of today's discussion really is to go over the California Employers Pension Prefunding Trust, which is a prefunding trust. It's a Section 115 prefunding trust that is offered here at CalPERS. Section 115 stands for, it's an IRC, so Internal Revenue Code, Section 115. It is a trust that public agencies can use to help prefund liabilities created by benefits. So in this particular instance, it is for pension. Now I'm going to just show you a quick outline. In the interest of time, I will do my absolute best to stay within the bounds of this. So first, we're going to take a look at the pension cost considerations and outlook, some of which Chris very kindly already covered. And then we'll have a look at the CalPERS pension funding tools that are available for the district to use already. And then we'll discuss the SEP to the Section 115 trust. We'll talk about the investments, we'll talk about the administration as well, and I'll show you the next steps after that. So whenever we are talking about pension, there are two cost considerations here. There's the normal cost. That's an ongoing perpetual cost. It is a percentage of payroll taken out monthly. It will be a cost that you'll have to consider so long as this benefit is offered. So long as pension is being offered, there will always be a normal cost. Unfunded accrued liability, the UAL. Now this exists for most agencies as it does exist for this district. It will recur if the plan ever goes negative, and it does carry an interest that's baked into the payment. It is 6.8%. Now, normal cost, this is the trend is that it's increasing just as payroll increases, headcount increases, and the cost of living increases. This will increase over time. The unfunded accrued liability, the UAL, which Chris has alluded to, is a fluctuating cost. It can be difficult to budget for as a result of that fluctuation. Now, I want to take a look at the problem here. So what we're looking at here is some data from the California Public Employee Retirement System, the PERF. And we're seeing here 30 years of data. So at 30, 20, and 10 year, these three data sets, the expected yield on this is 6.8%. So we are indeed exceeding that expected yield. But there is some short-term volatility here. So in the 5 years, you'll see that the pension fund has only met that goal just one time in those 5 years. Now, this volatility, it does have a direct impact on a participating pension agency's UAL. And it will have a direct impact on your funded status as well. So here is the district's three pension plans here with the pension fund. You can see that the district is 74.4% funded. And here are these two costs that I was just speaking about. The normal cost here for the fiscal year ending 2025, that's this fiscal year, is just under $103,000. And then the UAL payment, that unfunded accrued liability, right around $122.1 thousand. So that combined pension contribution for this year is just about $225,000. So here are some tools that you can use for the district to help manage these costs. And Chris has already mentioned some of them. So the July UAL annual prepayment, that's a tool that you can use. The Fresh Start, that's a reamortization schedule that's available. The additional discretionary payment. And then, of course, the SEP Section 115 pre-funding trust. I'll very quickly go over how these tools are used. Chris has kindly already explained the July UAL prepayment. It actually means that the pension actuary will cut the interest rate, that 6.8%, excuse me, carried on the UAL down to 3.4%. So it's a very easy way to save money right off the bat at the beginning of the fiscal year. There is a Fresh Start program. You can work with your pension actuary to use this program. And basically what it is a reamortization program. So we can think of it a bit like refinancing your mortgage. So right now, the pension actuary has come up with a 20-year amortization schedule for the district. You can see those payments here on the left-hand side. Now, let's say that the district would like to reamortize that schedule down to a shorter term. It's a bit like changing from a 30-year mortgage down to a 15-year mortgage. Well, we know that when you shorten the term, that the payments are going to increase, but in the long term, you will save money on interest. So there's two ways to do this. You can do what's called a hard fresh start, and you will work with your pension actuary. You'll move forward, you'll sign paperwork, and what will happen is they will come up with a schedule for you, and you'll pay what on this schedule. So it doesn't offer a lot of flexibility, but there is a second way to do this, and it's called doing a soft fresh start. And a soft fresh start is when you would do your best to mimic this amortization schedule. You would still work with the pension actuary to do that. Now, in the years when the district may not be able to make this slightly higher payment, you're not committed to it. You can just make the regular payment. And then when you are able again, you would do your best to mimic that payment again. So that's two ways to do it: the hard fresh start and the soft fresh start. There's two other tools. You can make an additional discretionary payment, as the district has done in the past. This makes up for past underperformance. It will reduce your pension UAL directly, but you do expose it to the risk that's associated with the pension fund itself, and you do have to be careful how much you put in there and what the timing is for the ADP that's being made, because there's no liquidity consideration for additional discretionary payments. Whatever gets put into the pension fund, it doesn't come out. Again, it's a one-way street. So these three tools here, they only help with unfunded accrued liability. What they can't do is help the district with normal cost. This final tool, the Section 115 Trust, is the only tool that can help stabilize your future cash flow. It can help with normal cost. It can help with ADPs and UAL as well. And what it does is it alleviates some of the pressure from your future budgets moving forward, because these are obviously long-term liabilities. So here are some of the reasons that you might want to pre-fund using a Section 115 Trust. It will allow you to grow assets for these future pension costs, the normal costs, like I mentioned before, the UAL and the ADPs. It will, over the long term, earn higher than LAIF or county treasury. It will stabilize future budgets, and you can use it in a multiple different ways. You can use it to create a rainy day fund, and it will preserve liquidity as well. And because these are voluntary trusts, you do get to maintain local control of the trust and of the assets in the trust as well. Now I'm going to show you very quickly a hypothetical 10-year compounding interest scenario. For transparency, what I'm doing here is I'm taking the 5.4% that Chris mentioned from strategy 1 in SEPT, and we're compounding it over 10 years. So one way to look at this might be, what is the cumulative expected compounded rate of investment return over that 10-year period? It is 69% after 10 years. You might think about this differently. You might think, well, what is the future value of the dollar that goes into this trust? Well, over 10 years, it would be $1.69 for every dollar invested in the trust. You could think about this in a different way also. If, let's say, that the district was trying to grow $1 million, to generate $1 million in this trust, how much would you need to invest today to be able to generate that $1 million at 5.4% compounding over 10 years? You would need $591,000 today for those 10 years to grow $1 million. So that's just three different ways of looking at really the same thing. I'm going to show you where the district is right now, essentially. So right here on the left, what we're seeing is the pension fund itself. Again, that expected return there is 6.8%. Now, it has a risk profile to match, and it has the longest term time horizon of anything on this page, and it has no liquidity consideration. Remember, whatever goes into the pension fund, it doesn't come out again until you retire and you start drawing on your pension. Now here on the right, the LAIF or the county treasury, wherever the district chooses to keep its general fund. Now I know that fixed income right now is doing very well. The Feds have very high interest rates, and as a result, this is likely yielding a pretty decent return, probably around 4%. But historically, the LAIF has an expected yield of around 1%. And indeed, when the Feds pivot that interest rate, this is going to drop. Now, the risk on a LAIF account is very low, and it has the shortest time horizon of anything on this page, and it has full liquidity. So anything you put in, you can draw out whenever you would like. Now, what the SEP does is it occupies this space in the middle. It allows you to pre-fund these long-term liabilities using something that has a longer time horizon that you determine. It has an expected return that is higher than LAIF, a little bit lower than the pension fund itself, but it also has lower risk than the pension. And of course, you get to maintain liquidity using this, which is very, very important. I want to show you a few of the different ways that you can use the SEPT account. There are multiple different ways. I'll show you just a couple. What we're looking at here, I know it's a lot of data. We're looking at the estimated normal cost. So if I can just draw your attention to this orange bar here, the normal cost for the fiscal year ending 2025 for the district is right around $103,000. So I have put in some inflation expectations. We project that this will increase at this rate going 10 years from now, fiscal year ending 2035, to over 120,000. So the contribution needed here for the district today to grow enough to be able to cover the normal cost in 2034-35 is right around $72,000. And this gray bar here is the potential investment gains over that 10-year period. So we can see over that 10 years, potentially you could gain enough to cover the rise and indeed the entire cost of the normal cost in 2034 to 35. Now you can use this in another way, and this is a very popular way to use it. It is a rainy day fund. So in this scenario, I know that Chris earlier talked about perhaps 20%. The scenario is just 25% of the district's pension contributions. And what this will do is you can set this aside into the SEPT, and when the fluctuations occur in the pension fund and it affects the UAL, you might feel a spike in the UAL. What the pension actuary will do is they'll actually trail it by 2 years, and they'll smooth that increase out by over a period of 5 years. So you won't feel the spike just in 1 year. And what that means is just this 25% might be enough to cover that increase in the UAL payment. And it would give the district enough time to either recover because the market has corrected, or to be able to recover itself by looking forward to the future budget. So that's a couple of different ways that you can use this trust. Now, CalPERS has been administering the Section 115 trust for 16 years now. We actually created the OPEB trust, that's the California Employers Retiree Benefit Trust, the CERPT, back in 2007. We have 603 employers who choose to participate with us there. The CEPT is a little bit newer. We established that in 2019, but it's grown a lot over those 5 years. 95 employers choose to participate with us there, and we have over $20 billion of assets under management in both of these trusts. So here's an overview of the agencies who choose to participate in our programs. The state of California, by far the largest one, and my personal favorite one. I actually moved from the private sector to come work for the state. And of course, one of the big draws was these very, very rich benefits. So I'm hoping that we can pre-fund and we'll keep these around for a long time when I retire eventually, a long time from now. We do have cities and counties who choose to participate in these trusts, but actually the bulk of our participating agencies, are special districts just like yourself. I'm going to go over briefly the investment management side of things. The expected yield, on strategy 1 is 5.4%, and on strategy 2, 4.9%. We do invest in 5 public asset classifications here, and we don't deal in private equity, and we don't invest in commodities here in SEPT either. So for transparency, we do update our fund fact sheets monthly. We publish these to the CalPERS website, so you'll always be able to access them, and you can see the benchmarks every single month. We update those, and we update the assets that are sitting in each strategy as well. Now, one thing that's very important to know about a Section 115 trust like the SEPT is that it is something that you maintain local control over. So the district will get to choose the preferred portfolio or strategy that you're in. You can use one or you can use both concurrently. Contributions into these trusts are voluntary. You do them on your schedule. You'll never get a phone call from myself or anyone else on my team asking you to make a contribution. And similarly with liquidating the trust, you decide if and when you want to take disbursements out of this trust. Now, it is irrevocably dedicated, which means that you can take disbursements that represent the normal cost, the UAL payment, and the ADPs in any given fiscal year. Now, there are multiple different ways to fund a Section 115 trust. There's no one size fits all. Every agency is unique in that way, but here are some of the different ways that they choose to contribute. You can send in pension reserves. You can make initial contributions, but then have no determination on how you will contribute in the future. That is perfectly fine. You can use it to dollar cost average additional discretionary payments. So instead of taking on the risk by using a large payment and putting it straight into the pension fund, you can set aside this payment into the SEPT and use the SEPT to grow assets whilst at the same time dollar cost averaging into the pension fund. And we see that being done often. You can also just do ad hoc payments. You don't have to have a determined way that you'll fund this. We do have some agencies who choose to open up the trust and they don't put any contributions in until it's right for them. Sometimes that can be multiple years, multiple budget cycles. And of course, you can always just make one contribution into the trust and leave it a set and forget kind of a mentality. And that's perfectly fine as well. The total participation cost fee here is 25 basis points. It's important to note that we do a flat fee. So that combines the administrative, the custodial, and the investment fees all together. And we're quite unique here in CalPERS. The pre-funding programs are self-funded. We are actually separate from the pension fund itself. That means our portfolio does not represent the pension fund. It is firewalled from the rest of CalPERS. And we are the only not-for-profit Section 115 trust provider in the state of California. There is no cost to join. The basis points work like this. So for $1 million set aside in this trust over a 12-month period, assuming that it doesn't gain and it doesn't lose, you don't make contributions, you don't take any disbursements, the program would have only charged just $2,500 to be able to administer that $1 million sitting in the trust. Now, CalPERS has been managing the pension system for 9 decades now. It is the largest retirement system in North America. And although the program is separated from the pension fund itself, we do lean on that experience, the expertise, and those vendor relationships and unmatched economies of scale to manage both of our Section 115 trust programs. And as a state agency, our team doesn't receive a commission. So myself, everyone else on my team, we're salaried employees. We focus purely on administration and education, which means that we can maintain an extremely low fee rate. And ultimately, low fees just mean more money sitting in the trusts for our participating agencies. There are 14 team members dedicated to these programs, and just these programs alone. We don't share our staff with any other area in CalPERS, which means that we're able to fully support all of our participating agencies exclusively. And we have made joining and participating in the programs really simple. It's very uncomplicated. And of course, CalPERS is also dedicated to providing transparency, and we administer both of our programs to 100% GASB compliance. So here are some of the trust support services that are included for all of our participating agencies. Contributions and disbursements will fully support you on both of those. We did just launch an online record keeping portal in November last year. That means that you can log on and receive your statements that way and look things up without having to get in touch with other people. It's a very easy, fast way to be able to have a look at the account itself. We'll conduct plan reviews and account updates on your schedule. Some agencies prefer to do it multiple times a year, some once a year, and some just do it once every few years. It's totally up to you. We will do workshops every once in a while, not so often these days in person, but I know that Chris and Zoe came to one of our webinars. We do the webinars once a month, so anyone in the district who would be interested in learning about the Section 115 Trust, they're very welcome to come. My colleague Danny and I do those once a month. Then we do send out statements, quarterly reports to all of our agencies. And should the district ever want to complete a strategy change, that's perfectly fine. You can just get in touch with us and let us know. There's no cost to do that. So I'm going to bring it to an end. This is the contracting process here. First, the staff recommendation, then the governing board would need to vote. And once that happens, we do need 3 documents. We need the contract, the delegation of authority, and the funding policy. Once we receive those in 3 to 10 business days, we will set up the account and execute the contract. And we will send out a welcome letter and we'll get together with yourself to go through the contribution process. And the contract agreement and the delegation must be signed at the governing body. The funding policy itself can be done internally within the district. So I have put my details here at the end. If you would like to get in touch just to ask any questions, you can call me. You can email me as well, whichever you prefer. That's perfectly fine. At this point, I'd love to open it up for any questions that you might have. I'm happy to answer them the best that I can.
Have any questions?
It is a bit of a big topic. It's hard to know what questions to ask right off the top.
We do have her contact. If you think of any questions, you can reach out then. So just kind of background information. It's a lot of information to explain. That's why I reached out to Tracy, and thank you so much for sharing that knowledge.
Of course, yeah. I'm thank you so much for inviting me. I do appreciate it. You have my contact details. If you think of anything, please feel free to get in touch with myself. I'll be happy to answer your questions via email as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The section on employer reports is a little bit confusing to me. So in my bill, it talks about employers shall provide to the board of the benefit pension plan cost report on the basis of actuarial assumptions. Are these things that are furnished to us by CalPERS, the actuarial evaluation? Or, because I was confused by that section. It's section C.
Yeah, and I did bring this up. So they do the quarterly reports, so they kind of provide that information because I asked about that as well. And that is in the quarterly financial reports they provide.
Okay, good, because I was saying we had to hire actuarial help. Overall, I think it's a good idea to start investing for the future. That pension liability is going to keep growing. And pensions can be very volatile as far as the markets and mortality rate. I know during the pandemic when people's and they're dying earlier, according to the mortality rate, pensions were received the benefit from that because obviously it's less time to pay someone. So if we have money to kind of stabilize and flatten those spikes, I think it's a really good idea. And obviously it sounds like we can just put in what we can and continue to let it grow. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense to me to do this.
I agree.
Just going back to the previous, looking at the unfunded liability payments.
Excuse me, can you guys stop talking? We're having a meeting. Please. You're interrupting. It's hard to hear when you're talking.
We kind of looked at that at previous board meetings, looking at that increase. So I think this is a good recommendation and suggestion to help stabilize those costs when they start getting to that point where it's hard to see how the district can look at that additional increase in those payments. So kind of just used as a rainy day fund to set aside if it gets to a point where it's hard to make that annual payment. We could start pulling out of this.
Yeah, that's a good option. Thank you, Zoe.
Did I understand that correctly? The cost of administration on their side is about $2,500?
No.
Chase 5%.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
1/4 of 1%.
Yeah, You always have to look at basis.
Okay.
points.
That 25 was based off of $1 million in
Okay,
assets.
that's
So
right.
if we had $1 million in
Yeah,
assets, it'd
okay.
be $2,500 annually.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
And
Okay.
my understanding, from reading and listening to her is if we have a plan, but it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt us.
Yeah, I'm encouraged that I was kind of concerned about this because much like CalPERS, it's investing in the market, but this seems like it's in a much less volatility, a much shorter, even though there is risk involved, it seems like it's in a much more secure market than just running off the regular year stocks, so as CalPERS can do. So, yeah.
CalPERS has some of the best investors. I've seen people losing money, the market tanks, and somehow CalPERS comes out smelling like a rose.
Yeah.
So it's a
Well,
good
in the
one.
most part, but we're at this UAL because of market crash as well.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. So it's not foolproof.
But I do like the more aggressive with the increased return on the percentages myself. It's just my thoughts.
So we think of one or two. We will, yeah, we need public comments. If there's more discussion with the board, is there anyone with public comment regarding?
With all the schools, colleges divesting in war, have you thought of investing in war? Is this the only plan you have?
Oh, boy, Arlen.
Not really sure what you're asking. Are you asking that we invest in
Thanks, Frank.
war companies that make
For me,
bombs?
with money is, if I'm investing, I want a 10%. That's all. I want something a little bit more.
Understandable. Everybody wants more.
Mhm.
Everybody wants most out of their investment. So, yeah.
People are getting 10% right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think at their percentages and stuff, for the long term, it's a good thing for the board to consider.
Yeah.
Because yeah, our unfunded liability is definitely increasing. Obviously, we're sitting on a interest rate every year on it. And as I said, our LAIF is looking good right now, but as those interest rates keep dropping with the Fed, then yeah, we're going to start losing money on that as well.
Right.
So it's going to start going flat.
Well, if there's no further discussion or public comment, do we want to make a suggestion for a strategy? Which one? It sounds like we can walk back and forth between the strategies as needed. We just need to nail one down for the beginning. And I believe staff recommended strategy 1. So
I agree.
we are in agreement with that as a board. Do we want to make a motion for strategy 1 and take action on this month?
If we want to take action on it.
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
so as
yeah,
well.
I'd be comfortable moving forward with
I'd
this.
be okay with
Yeah.
making a motion if you'd like. I'll make a motion to authorize the opening of the CalPERS SEPT account under strategy number 1 and to evaluate investment opportunities when discretionary funds become available for investing.
I'll second that.
Janet Evans? Aye. Mark Kirby?
Aye.
David Palmer?
Aye.
Michael Floyd?
Aye.
Mr. Boucher?
Aye.
Yeah.
Quarter of our reading for the package.
Yeah.
Okay.
I fell
Chris, on
asleep
the
halfway
next
through it.
one, I would like to say something after you're done, as far as what to expect on this to remind people?
Yes, okay. So the next item is to consider customer request for variance of encroachment on electrical utility easement. So the district was approached by a property owner on Seaport off of Lower Pacific Drive, requesting that property owner could build within the non-standard electrical easement. We had our district superintendent check this out and I'll just provide some brief background. On June 20th, 2024, architect Thomas Bond contacted the district to request a variance to build within a 10-foot non-standard electrical easement located at 495 Seaport. Attached is his request. Water wastewater superintendent Frank Wilson reviewed the location for any potential water or sewer line conflicts and determined that there were none. Similarly, power generation superintendent John Aronson reviewed the proposal for electric utility conflicts. He stated that there is a secondary line that runs through that easement to supply electricity to 2 neighboring houses. He said it appears that the construction proposal should not conflict with the line. And I'm not sure if we confirmed that's true. Yesterday, we did a site visit with the builder. How did that go? John, did you determine the construction on top of the line?
No, from what the contractor said.
Okay. So according to district policy, this has to go before the board to allow a property owner to build within the easement. So the recommendation here is to approve or deny customer request for variance and encroachment on electrical utility easement. Dan, you said it.
I just wonder, a lot of neighbors came down there yesterday while we were there, and I want to impress upon everyone that was there and any of the public comment today, we have no control over anything to do with building permits, coastal commission, that's all county, coastal commission, people like that. What we are looking at today is strictly, can he build within our easement? We're not allowing, we're not transferring it to them or anything. We're just allowing whether or not to build in that easement. So I just wanted to remind people that as we get to the public comment and as we look at it, that this is strictly the easement question with the electrical line. Frank has cleared it for sewer. And, I really appreciate John and the builder coming down because yesterday we saw the red line and then the builder brought out his large plans. So we could really see what was going on. It was really hard to see either the ones online trying to scroll back and forth or the printed ones are too small for somebody with my eyes. Yeah. So this was a lot better to see when he had the plans laid out right there and I could look at it. My concern, and John, you can answer this, it appeared to me that where that red line goes between the 2 homes that exist, that they were going to be building part of their porch, their deck, or their whatever over the electrical lines or really close to it, like right up against it. And what concerns me is if we have to get in there in the future, to do anything, even if we have some kind of legal document, people get emotional if you go in and you start doing any damage to their house and their property. So I'm really concerned about, can we protect ourselves enough legally to allow that to happen? I really do struggle with this decision because I don't like the idea of us having a lot of exposure going forward in the future if we have to get into that. Anybody?
Yeah,
Sure the board has other
I got
questions.
something. So I walked that lot as well. I spoke with Ben, the builder, and he showed me as well the area. The actual electrical line goes right under the corner of the structure. And if we did have to access that for something, John, I mean, if we had to dig that out and something happened in there, would we be liable?
To their structure?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I know there's a place that somebody built over a water line here in the Cove, and the district made them sign up some sort of form. I don't know, can't remember exactly what it is.
Okay.
That was it. A little harmless thing.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't really see an issue with it. But like I said, it's kind of hard to say. I don't know where the property pins are on the south side or anything. Usually they're probably by where the utility
Mhm.
secondary box is. But
That setback on that box is pretty severe. But and
yeah,
also and
there
also
used to be a transformer there, and we moved it because it was growing. The tree was
right.
lifting it up, and it was starting to tilt. And instead of having a failure down there, the transformer, we moved it to where it is now to get away from that tree.
Okay. Has the district, would anybody know of if the district has modified easements for homeowners in the past ever?
I know we've allowed them to move an easement, so instead of having it on one side of the lot, they can move it to the other side.
Uh-huh.
Survey, we did that over off of Humboldt Loop.
And I know a lot of residents here do have small structures on our easements that we just, it's not a problem until we need access underneath there, and then we're just gonna rip their crap right out
Well, yeah.
of the way. Excuse my French.
Build a fence in the easement, and we have to get in there to,
Right.
it's in the underground to dig it up.
It is what it is.
That's, you gotta replace your fence. Not on us.
Right. Right. I'm with you, Jan. I'm struggling with this one as well. I mean,
There's too many vehicles just because it's a home, not just a fence that we're looking
Yeah.
at. And can we really protect ourselves well enough
that I
with
don't know.
having a lawyer brought up, which somebody else would have to pay for, because I don't think the district should have to pay for it, but we would have to have,
Right.
yeah, and we'd also, we'd need to make sure it was a pretty ironclad document.
This easement is pretty extreme. It's a large easement for that small of a lot there. So I do get the builder's concern. I don't know how they're even gonna build anything on that little postage stamp of a lot, but that's not our problem. So I mean, we need to have something ironclad to protect the district before we can approve something like this.
And possibly asking them, I mean, the encroachment is a deck, that's coming out onto that point. So ask for a reduction on the deck. That's what's actually that's what's, threatening to sit on top of our utility.
Right, the deck's gonna be on piers.
Yeah, no, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
A poured foundation.
It is a poured foundation, yeah,
It's
so.
a 2-foot high concrete wall with cap, so that's
Okay.
Also the entryway.
Yeah, and the entryway.
The entryway
Back to
is,
6 feet, making a 45 on that one corner. And then
well, I see the entryway, but it doesn't look like the entryway is actually on what our infrastructure is. Looks like the electrical line is well clear of the entryway. It looks like it
Yes.
mainly is impacted just on that one
Corner.
southeast corner there.
Yeah.
On that deck. So possibly recommend that they shorten that deck maybe a couple feet to where, because it looks like it's that one corner just barely touches on it, like the.
Yeah, and they went out 6
Or-
feet, 45 and then back in.
Yeah, or possibly jog that corner, put an angle on that corner kind of thing rather than reducing the entire deck. Because other than that, it looks like it's pretty clear of all of our stuff. So, and you need usually dig about a 2-foot wide hole when you're accessing the underground.
Yeah, 18 inch, 2 feet. That's what we're using.
Okay. So yeah.
And that's
Huh.
the other concern too, is what do you use? It
Right.
could possibly knock into the house and cause a problem there, so close.
I do have concerns.
The architect, Thomas Bond and Associates, I know he's online. He was the one who requested this variance. So I give him a chance to speak.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Thomas Bond, do you have anything you would like to add to this request?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, let me kind of go back through your conversation a little bit. As far as the area where the electrical and telephone lines do go through, that's all asphalt paving as required by the county Public Works Department in order to provide adequate off-street parking. And I don't think it's a unique situation that there's utility lines below paving. If something happened and those lines had to be opened up, then we would cut the asphalt and get in there and do whatever needed to be done. As far as the deck, you're right, that corner of that deck comes pretty close to where the electrical line is. We would be perfectly willing to cut the deck back a little bit, maybe trim the corner off at an angle. My thinking was that the footings that support the deck would be inboard of the western end of the deck, or I'm sorry, the eastern side of the deck by a couple of feet in any case. So we probably wouldn't be anywhere near an excavation, but you know, we'd be happy to put the deck out there. That would be fine. Other than that, I can just, if you can go back to the overall site plan, I just wanted to make the point that our property line is extremely exaggerated because of this C court white spot on the roadway there, and between the property line being exaggerated back towards the ocean, then that forces the easement area to be pushed back. And on the other hand, on the other side, you know, even though the buildable area as defined by the setbacks is probably big enough to build a house, the Coastal Commission is asking us to move 5 feet off the edge of the bluff, which is what's represented by those series of blue lines. So by the time we move back from the edge of the bluff and deal with all of the other restrictions on the east side, we're basically left with almost nothing to build with. And so one of the first things I did when we started this project is I went to the county and I showed them these plans and asked if they thought it was a reasonable thing to ask for a variance to allow our building to project into the county setback. And I got absolutely no pushback on that. And I've asked that question a couple of times. And I think I sent you guys a copy of the formal variance request we submitted to them. And they seem to be fine with that. So this is about the only way we can get a viable residence of any consequence there. And even with pushing the building forward into the county and the easement, we are still set back behind the adjacent homeowners. So we're in no way getting some advantage of being closer to the road or any other advantages really relative to the other homeowners. And if you were to draw a line from the front of the house in the north to the front of the house in the back, we're well behind a line where all the fronts of the houses would be. So I don't think the siding of the house is problematic or should be problematic to any of the neighbors. And we sent the USA folks, the underground service alert people, to physically determine where those lines are. So those lines, as I'm showing, are as best as I can graphically describe where the lines exist. And they had their equipment out there and they staked it, and we simply transposed that onto the drawing. So like I said, just with the exception of the south east corner of the site, we're nowhere near those lines. And yes, there's a little part where we extend into the easement, and we'll be happy to move that deck if that will help the case. But I can say one other thing, and that is that nobody's ever going to be able to use that easement for the intended purposes, because as you move south in the easement, there's a great big Monterey cypress tree there, which its roots have to be all over the place in that area. So any further work, they would have to be routing around that tree stump anyway, or not a stump, but the tree roots anyway.
Thank you. Further questions from the board?
No, not for Mr. Bond. Yeah.
This is a decision.
Yep,
Um,
Sure is.
I mean, if our supervisors feel that we're able to access the utilities and all, I mean, I would be comfortable with an augmentation on the deck to make sure that we do have clean access on that southeast corner, should the needs, because it looks like we have a utility riser right there, basically right at the property line. So yeah, I wouldn't want to have our whoever we have come in there, should the need arise, to have to worry about the deck or having to rip out that. But yeah, having them augment that corner and set that back to where it has a comfortable work zone and availability to that riser area. I mean, I personally wouldn't see an issue with it. I don't see the need for it. You know, I don't think we're going to be needing to get any closer to their to utilize that easement to get any closer to the home. So yeah, if this is truly where the electrical and other utility lines run, yeah, I think that would be appropriate. Give them an ability to attempt to use this. I mean, we are ultimately in the business of selling utilities. So this is another potential customer. So.
Well, on that, with that in mind, Jack, I made 2 trips down there and walked the property and looked at where the easements were and whatnot. And from my perspective, it seemed like they purchased a very small lot and they're trying to fit in a very large house, which with our easements there, they could be doing an appropriately designed smaller house that would fit, that would make that lot, that would keep that lot still buildable. So I'm concerned about, like, well, are we giving up these, are we going to be allowing them to encroach on an easement so that they can take up the whole lot? And maybe that is more of a county situation, but I just feel like they did purchase this lot knowing what the easements were and the setbacks, and then also, I just feel like they've gone ahead with a design plan that is trying to put a larger structure in there that maybe isn't necessarily what the property that they bought could sustain, could have. But
In your opinion, John, is the house itself, not just the deck, set back far enough that you could work?
Yeah, the house isn't an issue. I mean, if they did something with the corner of that deck or made the deck smaller, I think that would suffice for anything that we would need to get in there.
I could possibly consider it if we had legal document too as well, stating that if we have to get in there, any damage that's done to their infrastructure that's in our easement is not our problem. Because that's my biggest concern, is exposure, protecting the district.
so would we be bringing that back then? Another time?
I don't know. That's up to the board. If we want to continue to discuss, we need public comment.
I'd like to hear from the public.
Yeah.
If I could.
And keep in mind, what we're talking about is not our criticism of their home. It's just allowing them to encroach in our easement.
Scapola has an encroachment for the sign at the T there. We pay for the encroachment. So are you going to charge for the encroachment? It's an annual fee.
Well, what is your annual fee?
The cost for ours, $375.
Just question, are you,
It's a county.
Okay, see that's to the county. I was just wanting to clarify that it was a payment to the county and not to the property owner on that. So, okay.
There's also another issue or another option too, which is that you can provide the owner to relocate the utility lines in an appropriate place that the board would accept, so that there is no interference one way or the other. I don't know that that's cost prohibitive, but underground lines, pole boxes, it's not that difficult to do.
Oh, we got another one in the back, Jim.
Yeah, we just commented if you could get a.
Need to have you come on up here.
I just comment that if you do get a release of liability for any future work that might damage the house or cause any injuries of any sort, that release of liability be attached to the property and not just for that particular owner.
Correct.
Another owner, another year from now. And you had asked a good question, like what is the precedent for granting variances? It's gonna work both ways. You can say, well, you gave a variance in the past. Why are you not giving us a variance? It's impacting us. Or, this is the very first one, and then
Yeah, that's another concern.
Precedence is a concern with me. However, I am told that we have given variances for easements that we're not using currently, or that we can move the line, the utilities itself. But it's my understanding, at least with talking with Sue, and maybe there's some information that's missing, but she indicated that once we have lines going through something, or if we are using that easement, then typically we haven't been giving those variances. I'm kind of curious to see if our records, if we could find more evidence of when and how and why we did those variances with easements, in particular with where we do know that we're using them for utility, even though it's not directly over the house or under the house or under the building, but just setting that precedent.
Well, is it something that we want to garner further information on that and then bring back to next month?
I think so.
For another decision? Okay. Yeah, get more of a history of what existing variances we have. So we can kind of play as close to an apples to apples game as we can.
Is that something you can do, Chris, for us for next month? Have you two pull that together?
Yeah, we can research the history of similar action, the precedents.
Okay.
Or maybe find out what the cost would be to move those lines to give us a more comfortable buffer there with the easements.
And if not any of those, possibly into the fee on the use of the easement.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I know that was suggested before Arlen suggested. I'd heard that as well. So
I would suggest that would go back to what Chris said before, precedents, and I don't know that that's ever.
yeah, I haven't heard that, but I have heard, as you said, on the county easement actually having but obviously we're not the county, so I don't know if we have the authority to actually charge for encroachment on our easement. So yeah.
So I think we are agreed on bringing this back to look at it with more information. Is there any more public comment? Yeah, is there any more public comment?
I would like to add to that there is, for the policy cited in this report, 3065 real property records and easement transfers, there is a fee associated with this conceptual review.
Okay.
Similarly, 375. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will bring this back next month and move forward to the next issue.
Okay. The Next issue, this was a discussion item last board meeting and bringing it forth as an action item. Consider means to address past due accounts. So at the regular board meeting last month, I presented various options to recover the debt from the district's closed past due account. As detailed from a report by the Liebert Cassidy Whitmore LCW law firm. The topic was introduced as a discussion and informational item to allow the board time to consider the options. And I'm now bringing it as an action item to decide which of these options we should select to. I ran down all of this. I'll try to read quickly. So the LCW aimed these options at the most egregious closed past due account of $21,189.62, which alone accounts for roughly 74% of the sum of all closed past due accounts. However, their recommendations can also apply to all other past and future closed past due accounts. Their recommendation, I'll kind of paraphrase here, their recommendation is to file court action against the property owner to obtain a judgment lien for the full past due amount. They also say we can place a lien on the property for the delinquent water and sewer charges. This is where we get the weeds of this issue. According to Public Health and Safety Code, the district can only legally place a property lien for water and sewer charges, not for electricity, which is the brunt of the past due on this account. And most district can also adopt a resolution to refer all past due accounts to a collection agency or agencies. The only this one is the collections agencies don't have an upfront fee, but if they collect anything from past due account, they will take 35 to 40%, depending on the collections agency of that of the past due amount. The district can also adopt a resolution to place all past due water and sewer charges on the property tax rolls. That would be a kind of a long, drawn out, complicated process to work with the county. It will require a public hearing, and it may not be feasible. Also, because of the district's financial structure with our billing, it's difficult to separate water and sewer from electricity charges when you have these past due accounts. There are late fee assessments, sometimes partial payments that don't get attributed to any particular utility. So it's very difficult to figure out how much of that past due is water, sewer, and or electric. So another option is to work with the county to develop a process to place liens and properties for past due electric charges. And similar, another reference with the county, a long drawn out process. According to them feasible, but we probably have to go back to them for their services to help us on this with all the legal documentation required. So LCW has also referenced the option of updating existing district ordinances to allow for placing liens on properties against delinquent owners. They said that many other districts have such procedures, and LCW offered their services to assist in that option if the district decides to pursue it. However, that approach would only work, once again, for past due water and sewer charges, not electricity.
Right.
Alternatively, LCW says that the district can seek a legislative fix. The legislature could amend Public Resources Code to provide an express statutory authority to record liens for unpaid electrical charges and related fees. It could be similar to the process that a public utility district can utilize under Public Utilities Code. However, LCW cautions that a legislative fix is a lengthy process. It's not guaranteed. So I did reach out to, since it seems like a lot of the problem is with electricity charges, I reached out to districts that only deal with electric, like Trinity, PUD is one, and I asked what do they do for past due accounts. They said they go to collections. Most municipalities go to collections just because of the ease of it. Considering that this one account is the one that we really started this whole discussion about, I think we should go with what the LCW says as the judgment lien for the full past due amount on that one. But regarding all future and all these past due accounts, I think that the collection is the best option. That would be my recommendation, but I'll leave it up to you. Choose one or more of the presented selections, pursue for collecting closed past due. And I did include a list of those closed past due accounts. After speaking with collections agencies, they told me that I cannot go after ones that are over 4 years old. I would need to verify that again. So we only listed the ones that are over 4 years old. And, are there any questions?
Some of these past due accounts that are here just need to be written off. They're not worth going to collection over the insignificant amounts.
Yeah.
We only have a really large one, which I think LCW needs to go after. I'm not sure collections agency is going to be able to obtain that, but that's, I agree with you on LCW going after that one. It doesn't, there's only really another one at 2,000, which maybe a collection agency could go for and obtain, but it's old, it's getting really old. A lot of this stuff is just aging out and shouldn't be considered part of our receivables. They should be at a minimum, allowance for that needs to be done. The one that's asterisk down here, I presume, is the one we have a payment plan on.
Yeah, the asterisk one at the bottom is, we're currently writing that up as part of an escrow payment. It's a house for sale that owes that past due. We worked with the realtor to include it as escrow, so we should be able to read that through the sale of the property.
Other discussion? Board members, Dave, you look like you think you've got something you want to say.
Maybe I do. I think we should proceed with the lien on the big one. But of the four in the conclusion, when I've read this and thought about it, I thought we should do all four of those. But there's a possibility that what we really need is maybe only one of them to cover all our bases. And I'm not sure which it would be.
I do think that we should do the option number one for the largest account. And then, we're also talking about for like future past due accounts, even if they're kind of smaller accounts, but I think that adopting a resolution to put accounts over to a collection agency would be beneficial. It would be less work for staff.
Mhm.
We aren't getting as much money back, but at least it's something. And right now, every dollar counts.
I like the collections idea myself. With that big one, we need to go after that one through LCW for sure. So yeah, I think we take baby steps and start with the collections process. But we have to make sure we've given everyone ample time. It looks like we have, prior to paying that off, and that everything's been exhausted before, because those collections agencies, they just ruin their credit. I hate to do that, but we got to do something.
Well, and I think one reason why it's gotten to this point is because we haven't really had a consistent way of dealing with these types of accounts. So I don't like to send anybody to collection agencies. I don't take that lightly at all. But the district does have. We do have to look out for the district. And some of these, like you said, like it's not very much, they're not very big bills, but they are still within what people would be using in today's economy.
Just curious, do we have any projected costs estimate on what going through the judgment lien will be for the district?
No, I don't. The lawyer fees are high.
Okay.
Probably,
Obviously, we can incorporate those into the judgment lien. I know. I was just thinking, because I know we're talking about for the largest one, but then we do have another one that is about 10% of our largest. So whether it would be beneficial to go after that one and try and get a larger chunk on that. I do agree with the smaller ones going to a collection agency. Obviously, we've got some that are sub $100, and there's only half a dozen that are in excess of, I believe, $500. So yeah, I'm agreeing with Tasha that getting whatever we can off of those. And I do agree that, a lot of this is spurred because people know that, well, if I don't pay, I don't pay. And, nothing's really going to happen. It's just I can't get power turned back on, but the next owner can. So, yeah, so I think establishing that would be good. And there would be at least something, to deter just walking away from power bills, and they will follow them. So, yeah. So I definitely think we should definitely go with the judgment lien on the largest, maybe look at the costs and see if it would be beneficial. Possibly, I mean, ultimately we'd need to develop a policy on it and kind of create that a threshold of where we're going to go after them with the big guns or where we're going to send them to collection at. So.
Yeah, I would like to reiterate that current district ordinances authorize the district to collect its attorney fees and costs with the judgment lien.
Right.
LCW reiterated that too.
Yeah.
Including the money we've already spent on this.
Okay.
I bought a house about 20 years ago and I owed a cable company $40. They wouldn't let me buy my house to finance it without paying that $40 back. Yeah, it was pretty something. It was amazing. So we'll get our money back eventually. Look at there.
Just one question, Chris, on that 4 years, does it stop if you try to get the money? What is I don't quite understand like the 4-year deal.
That information came from the collections agency.
So after the 4 years, but like a statute of limitations, if you did file before that, then you're still okay to go after them.
Comment on the big one was, and I think it would go back to Chris to find out how much the lawyers would charge, because you definitely don't want to throw a bunch of good money after more bad money.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a comment?
Yeah, there's a comment online.
Oh, Jerry.
Just go ahead.
Do I go ahead?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I would do this in 2 steps as my suggestion. The first step is have the law firm prepare a generic demand letter, which is a 1-pager, just saying, you owe this amount. If we don't get paid in X amount of time, we're going to proceed to step 2. And then I'd include what step 2 is of this list. And I would recommend that first option as being your step 2, although there is some beauty in having the collection agency in there. But whatever you decide is your ultimate step, I would first send out a demand letter advising them that you're going to take that step. Because you might find that that'll be enough to shake out the money. And then you'll have a generic letter you can use for any of these delinquent payments that you can send out, informing them if we don't get paid, we're taking this more drastic step. That'd be my suggestion.
Thanks, Jerry. Anyone else? Do we want to take a vote on this today? As to which way we want to go?
Well, it would be a multi-faceted motion.
I do agree with Jerry. I think it's not a bad idea to have them send a demand letter on the lawyer's letterhead to get there, and then go ahead with that, step 1. And then I think we need to
Adopt a resolution.
go ahead and start preparing, and then be able to adopt a resolution to start collection proceedings on other accounts. And we can, when we get to that point, so can we pass this in 2 parts? I presume we can. We'll separate out the collection agency to maybe an action item next month, because I'd like to think about materiality of these different accounts, whether they're worth it or if they should just be basically written on. And but I do think it does. People to understand that we're going to start going out. things that it's just not, we can't keep absorbing everybody moving away and leaving us stuck. So, can you handle that motion, Mike?
I don't know. That's a big motion.
Well, basically, I think what we want to do is just move to, do a demand letter and file the court action against the property owner. And
We need
then
to set a threshold here, though. You know, a dollar amount threshold too as well.
For the government collections agency, they did ask them that question, what would be the threshold? And one agency said $50, another one said $100. I think we have only 2 of these 20 or so listed past due accounts that are under $100.
Right. Okay. Well, then we can just go ahead probably and do the collection agency thing, but we do have to write a resolution for that, which would require.
You have to bring that back.
Yeah, so that part has to come back next time with the resolution for us to pass.
So I can make a motion.
I would say that we would want to get a cost analysis on the projected cost of doing the judgment lien.
Yeah,
just so that we can set that upper threshold. Obviously, we have our lower threshold for going to collections, but so we can set that upper threshold for if we want to go through and do the judgment lien on something rather than going to collections as well.
Okay, so then the whole thing needs to be fixed next month. Agreement on that. Because we can get a resolution.
It doesn't hurt to get more information.
Nope. Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
We're gonna
Kick it to.
You're gonna kick it, the whole thing? We're not gonna start collections?
Jeff, please, and probably it's not a bad idea in the public that we need to get a cost estimate from Hubert. What they're gonna charge us for.
Well, that was just for the big one. All the other ones were pretty straightforward.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't just be for the big one, it would be for any kind of like any in the future, kind of, so we have an idea of what we're looking at for, and so we can establish that upper threshold of when we want to not go to collections, but go to try and seek a judgment sum or a judgment lien on them.
Well, why can't we just blanket send them all to collections, and then we'll determine if we want to send one off for judgment lien. I mean, we can start, we send them to collections and then still take other avenues.
But we're trying to establish a policy as far as where we're going to move forward with this, so to the, not just for this list, but for in the future as well. So that way we have, established line. So this one that is at like, what, 2,200, it's like, is it worth it to put a summary or to get a judgment lien on that one? Or is cost benefit worthwhile? Yeah, but that way we would know going forward, do we want to are we wanting to wait until they, if it's over this threshold? I mean, I'm just throwing out, if you want to make a motion, you're free to make a motion and go through.
Well, no, so, I want us to,
I could give some idea, even just doing this, answering what we've got here from LCW was somewhere around $7,000.
There's a lot of research in that.
Yeah, a lot of
that's
research
what
in
we
it,
were
so,
legally allowed to do.
right, and we'd get that back probably up on the sale of the property.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can wait until next month, I would think, if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Thing with a total policy on past dues collections. Okay. All right, then moving forward, this is basically a housekeeping thing as far as conflict of interest code that needs to be updated every 2 years. Last month, and we added superintendents who have to disclose, since they are in purchasing, that's why we need to disclose.
This is the second meeting for modifying board policy and conflict of interest code, and the only change we made was to add superintendents to the list of those who this policy would apply to.
Any further discussion from the board and what we have?
Um, If I understand this correctly, the new people, the supervisors or whatever we call them, would have to fill out a Form 700 like we do? Well, I'm all for it.
Welcome to Form 700.
Yeah.
It's a mostly painless procedure.
Uh-huh.
The second one.
Yes.
Copy the first one. Not for me.
No, it's pretty straightforward.
All right. Want to do a motion? Oh, public comment, yeah.
Oh, yeah, public comment.
Yeah. Arlen?
Darling?
Arlen?
You want a Form 700 too?
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I will make a motion to approve policy 2010 pertaining to confidential employees and other non-union employees not included in the bargaining unit.
One ahead of
Yeah,
us.
you're one ahead, yeah.
Damn it, it's the same topic.
No, agenda item 4.
10:20, not 2010.
How far back do I gotta go here? All right, sorry. Hold on, bear with me. Where did it go? Might be.
Right there.
I don't have that. I'll make a motion to approve board policy 1020, conflict of interest code as presented. I didn't get that.
I'll second that.
Jack Carter,
Aye.
Michael Flurry,
Aye.
David Summers,
Aye.
Tasha Bucci.
Aye.
Now we move ahead to 2010.
Oh my goodness.
Here's my task.
How did I screw that? Oh, here it is. It's out of order. They're all out of order.
This one is basically, I presented it last month. This is coming back for a vote. What we asked the staff to do last month after they looked at it was to come back and clarify the section regarding work schedule, where there's the option of having a 9/8/80 alternative schedule. And basically, I think we were kind of all curious as to how it would work. And so they've included a calendar for approval. That was the only difference between what we looked at. If I'm correct, Zoe, that was the only change.
Yeah.
Okay, from what we talked about last month to this month. So they've clarified that and put it in here, and everything else has remained the same. This is modifying, policy pertaining to the group of employees that are not represented by the union, which includes the fire department as well as the office staff. So I think we had said last month for Jack, who wasn't able to be with us last month, that what we had before had a whole lot of union verbiage in it, and we got rid of that. And then we changed the vacation policy for retention, to try to help with retention. And we were all in agreement on that part, but then with the 9/8/80, some of us were confused about that. So then this now explains it. Anybody have any questions about?
So are we still talking about closing the office on those Fridays? Or are we just gonna rotate the 9/8/80s amongst staff? Or I still don't understand how this is gonna play out. Are we gonna expand our hours like we talked about?
Yeah, so I'll let Zoe take over down here, but you did a lot of research on this one, but basically, yeah, we would be kind of like what the county Humboldt schedule is. We would be closed on Fridays, but we would be open until 5 p.m. Monday to Thursdays. We still have basically half of the office staff here on Fridays, getting work done, closed to the public. So if you can add to that.
I was gonna say too, it can, we just wrote in the schedule into policy 2010 to be the option, but it could go either way if, depending on the office hours, it could be staggered if the office hours don't change. However, if we do go to that, it's kind of just offering that schedule in the policy as a work schedule for now, and then dependent on the plans, changing the office hours or keeping them, making that schedule an option still to work with whatever schedule there is running the office. Because you could stagger it. It is dependent on the office hours, but this is just outlining what the an alternative work schedule could be within the policy. So you could go either way by staggering it or changing the office hours and then doing it that way.
Yeah, because this came into question last time was, are we going to close the office or going to modify the hours? I don't know. And what about our board packets on the Friday before the meeting? It's a lot of work to get done.
Yeah, the office staff will be here. It's just, it's not like everybody's taking Friday off. It will be a staggered thing. And I think we can schedule for making sure that we're covered for getting our board packets to us. And we're not exactly the general public. We're talking about not letting in on Friday. I think this operationally allows you, Chris, and your staff to choose if you want to, if it would work out well to close the office because it will be open 4 more days and an hour later instead of people trying to get here by 4 to pay their bills. It will help, that. But I also
agreed with, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
I really would like to see that happen because I know how hard it is for the staff to get their work done. It's really hard because there's constantly people coming to that window and wanting things besides paying the bill. And it's very disruptive to the workflow of the employees, and it causes a lot of buildup of excess work that's just piling up and no time to do it. So I think
Public comes to the window, there's someone in there and they have a concern, they're going to get mad. Right?
I think initially it might be challenging, but I think that as people get used to the new schedules, that it would even out. One thing that I personally think after working in the office for 7.5 years and knowing how busy that office is and how much time that the district takes for the people that work in the office, that allowing them to alternate for being able to have it, one of them, or however you guys are going to do it, to have a 3-day weekend allows for a better quality of life for them and to be able to catch up on things that they just cannot do with a 2-day weekend day in, day out.
We're still a business.
We are. And so if, but we can't afford more staff. So
right.
This is kind of helping alleviate that pressure on the staff. Because really, if we want to be open 5 days a week, it's a lot. And I don't think that we're going to see too much of a difference as far as impacting people once they get used to the new schedule, that just being able to allow the office staff to be able to rotate on and give staff members at alternating times a 3-day weekend would be very beneficial for employee retention.
I'm all for that. I just don't know if we should close on Fridays.
And yeah, that's what I was kind of explaining here, where the policy is adopting that, or not adopting, but giving that option as an approved schedule. It still reads that it has to be approved if we go to that. It doesn't mean if this is approved, we're going to go and close the office Fridays. That's still in question, but it's just giving that flexibility in the policy that if it's approved.
I can support that. I can support that.
Yeah.
So the schedule is not actually part of the policy. We can change the schedule whenever we want.
The office hours, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of, I was curious, basically, are most of the staff wanting to adopt to the 9880? That really is ultimately, the decider of, augmenting the office hours, because we only have 1 or 2 personnel who are shifting to this alternate schedule. It doesn't make sense to really augment, but yeah.
There is a favor for it.
Okay.
The feedback was to try to get a little bit of adjusting, being there till 5 instead of 4 on those days, but also a 3-day weekend for that rest and recovery, every other week, is, they do with that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm definitely more of a favor of a 4-10 schedule than,
That's what I said.
a 5-8, but yeah, I mean, the 9-8-80 is good. Honestly, looking at the schedule, are we looking at changing the lunch from an hour to a half hour on that as well? Or, because I see we're listed at 9 hours, but it's 7:30 to 5, which is.
And that's what we are now. The morning break and afternoon break are just added to the lunch. The office is so busy, you don't really take breaks.
Okay.
So those 15-minute aids are part of the lunch that extended to an hour.
Okay, just for clarity, yeah, because when I was like, okay, well, that doesn't equate 9 hours, but yeah, okay.
Right, and one other thing is that I really don't think we should have just 1 staff member in the office for us to stay open. We should have at least 2 for safety reasons. So at least a minimum of 2 staff members in the office at any given time. Or 1 with Chris, unless it's closed, yes, absolutely.
The only other thing I saw in this policy that I didn't catch last time, and I did speak with you, Chris, about it, was, and maybe you have more, or maybe it's not important. On page 2, Article 3, 3.6, the seniority clause. The district shall base seniority upon the date of hire in a regular probationary capacity in a full-time position. That looked like that was just copy pasted from the union. And I don't know that if we can add language that just clarifies, that just means like especially with the office. And then part of it is it's for the job description. It's not necessarily because right now it would be, you're the superintendent, but Tony's been there the longest, so would that make her senior? You know what I mean? That kind of just clarification on that, if that is needed.
Yeah.
I think that usually when it comes to layoffs and.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's
done, so. I think like our state for general laborers that we had, it's gonna be that.
So leave it,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
but we could say per job description. Okay.
We could move to half day on Fridays as well. Yeah. I'm good with it.
Public comment?
There we go.
Are you gonna have a grace period for utilities on that Friday at the end of the month? For people that come in on a Monday if your office is closed, pay their bills?
That's a good point.
Yeah, we currently do if it's the end of the month on a weekend or a holiday, it goes to the next applicable Monday.
Yeah. So 4 days of the week, they'll be open until 5, which really helps, because I don't know if you've ever been out here at 4 o'clock. When people come flying in this parking lot.
It'll happen at 5.
It will. I will tell you, our staff.
Be at 4:45. Ooh, I gotta get there.
Yeah, they end up staying there because last month we had a lineup outside, and I don't know how everybody stayed, but they stayed until they took care of everybody who made it in the parking lot. But when you're coming from over the hill from working, I think being able to get through at 5 or so is. Yes.
So the kind of thing that's, one of the things that I see working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then coming in on Saturday and Sunday is I get 80 to 90% more done on Saturday and Sunday. And we're not talking about that nearly enough. The projects that could be coming in the future for this district are going to do a lot more work on the office, and being able to not have a day where people are coming up to the window is going to be much more beneficial to cost of the district versus dealing with the public, even if it's taking in bills. I mean, those things where we are gonna have to come to that point and say, where's our balance with actually doing clerical and office work and helping the community with questions that may or may not be RID's issue. You know, and that's what we're seeing that on the opposite side right now, where the amount of work both with the GM and the office, including the superintendent, is going to get outweighed by the work that we need to do for our grants and other funding sources in the future. So something to keep in mind.
Thank you
And
for
people
that.
can still pay their bills. There's a slot in the door. Takes payments 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can
So,
spend
yeah.
money on that. But I do believe that people need peace and quiet from interruptions. And I know people interrupt Nick back when they find him in the fire department.
Yeah, I get too. People still find me here.
Look your sign of meeting in progress, because that'll get some people to stop. But, you know, I think there's that. And I also would like to see more, better gatekeeping, as to keep protection to those who are trying to get things done, and have it more if they're coming to the window. People need to start thinking about making appointments, not just always being able to walk right in here and have instant answers to things that the staff. I think there's something to be said for people to either make an appointment to see someone, or that if they do come to the window, that someone says, we'll get back to you on this, and not constantly be pulling people away from what they're doing by letting somebody in their door all the time just because they have a question and not a bill payment. So those are some things that's more of a management thing, but I do think if we could shutter the office and give people time to work, it would be a lot better. So are we in agreement on any more comments after our public comment?
No,
All right, do we want to have a motion?
I think I could make that motion again. Experienced. I'll make a motion to approve policy 210. Is that right? 2010, pertaining to confidential employees and other non-union employees not included in bargaining unit as presented.
I'll second.
Barely managed.
Jack Murray,
Aye.
Sasha Buji,
Aye.
David Sommer,
Aye.
Michael Swart.
Aye. What's going on my phone? People?
That's one.
That's one.
Okay.
Jack make this motion, his last one. Okay,
The sports court.
so I know this last item here, last action item before meeting, it's a big one. So okay, we can get to it. It's consider choosing option for sports court layout and authorizing committee and GM to sign application. So I know I've been updating the board and the public on the sports court grant project. And so this is sort of another update on it, progress on it. So following is a synopsis of progress from the committee made thus far. So the committee has decided to develop more compact design of the court, while still allowing for a full court basketball court with plus 2 pickleball courts. Instead of the NBA sized court, this will be more of a recreational park court, which is about 25% smaller. That was discussed at the last board meeting. Another item of progress is to move the court out of the restricted airport zone 5. And the committee has proposed site plan alternatives to accomplish that task, which shift the location closer to the existing parking lot and about 20 feet to the southwest. Corner of the sports court will now be near the southwest corner of the existing parking lot. Of course, these are all just conceptual designs that will have to go through permitting and zoning process coming in. Development of a preliminary updated budget, the committee has helped with that. And the committee now estimates that the entire project can now be completed for a total of about $200,000. The lower cost is due to the following. The footprint is about 30% smaller. The new area is flatter, farther from the slope near Upper Pacific. Combined with smaller footprint, this will entail much less grading and fill. Material can be sourced from Garberville rather than Fortuna, with less delivery costs. And a significant amount of volunteer engineering, permitting, and construction support supplied by the committee at no cost to the RIT volunteers. Finally, the committee has also determined that it is possible to apply for a 50% advance on the grant, significantly reducing required upfront costs on the RID. So I'm going to kind of share my screen here. So the next step in the process is for the board to review and consider approval of one of the newly created site plans. And these plans address the restricted airport zoning in various iterations, reduce total project costs, and have also received preliminary encouragement from the county planning department. It's going to be difficult to see a little bit. But this is site plan 1. Now, we were presented with 5 site plans. You can see it's a single sports court, and you can see that yellow line is airport zone 5 boundary. According to the airport zoning restrictions, you can't have recreational activities like this within that, on the other side of that yellow line. So you can see it in the corner of that, still in the airport zone 5. Site plan 2 addresses that by basically shaving the corner off, kind of similar to what we were talking about with the property damage earlier. Site plan 3 gets even more aggressive. Let's shrink the basketball court a little bit and add 2 pickleball courts, one of which is almost completely in zone 5. And then site plan 4 takes off that extra pickleball pad, moves the courts over a little bit to the south and west. For 2 courts, you have 1 basketball and 1 pickleball, and that basketball can also be a pickleball court. Site plan 5 is 1 single basketball / 2 pickleball courts at an angle to remain in the compliant zone 2. So I'll follow with what the committee is recommending. The committee recommends the board approve site plan 4, which is this one. Which includes 2 separate pads. The advantages of the 2-pad design over a single larger pad are the smaller cement pours, reduce individual truck requirements, less change in elevation within each pad to reduce grading and fill costs, less interference between different sports, flexibility to have 3 total pickleball courts if necessary. So 1 basketball can be 2 pickleball pads. And both pads can be sited outside of the restricted airport zone 5. Upon board approval of the desired site plan, a pre-application will need to be submitted to the county planning department. This will enable the county to provide feedback and direction for which further documents and permitting are required. Just to step back a little bit, we do have current plans for the pickleball court / basketball courts, / pickleball courts that SHN engineers produced at a cost. And the only issue with those plans are they intrude on that airport zone 5. So this was a direction to address the airport zone 5 restriction. Are there any questions from the board?
Well, obviously, we can't be in zone 5, so that one is what our choices are.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I did attend the informal sports court committee meeting, and I would like to start off first. I'm really appreciative of the work that you guys have done, and with the numbers, we haven't even looked at the numbers yet that you guys have tentatively put forward. I don't know if we had those, if we were going to show that.
Yeah, the budget numbers.
Numbers here.
So the budget on the grant basically was 178,000 or so, with an in-kind portion on top of that. And you can see there's costs associated for each of those site plans. Site plan 1, the 1 pad, committee estimates 133,000 for that. Site plan 4, 2 pads, which is the recommended, was 160,000. And the 3-pad design, they're estimating 186,000 or so. And you don't need to get too into the weeds, but it was broken down But all kinds of different estimates, material, labor. And
So one of the things that I noticed, for me, from my perspective, like I do really like if we were going to move forward with this, we are going to be moving forward with the project. However, plan for, that it is on the surface, that does look like it would be helpful so that there'd be pickleball courts available for when people want to play basketball. But I don't, after looking at the numbers and then going over also the SHN plans, the SHN design is in zone 5. The only plan that I really see that would actually lower the cost, possibly, and move the sports court completely out of, for the most part, out of zone 5 would be plan number 1. That's more what has been submitted to the state for this grant. It kind of more aligns with the scope of work. With that said, I think with the numbers, and I know these are all very preliminary numbers that that the committee is bringing forth, but you'll see a lot of zeros in reference to the cost of labor, because we're assuming we're going to be able to use volunteers. My concern with that is that because it is a state grant, that we do need to be paying whatever contractor takes this on needs to be licensed and bonded, but they need to be paying a prevailing wage. So I have questions on whether or not we're actually able to just use volunteer works to do this project. I would like to see more information on that, if that's even possible, so that we have more a clear understanding on the labor side, as well as in the past, I didn't really go over the SHN plans myself. I was more looking at the number that was given to the public when we first decided to do this project. And we were given the number of 281,000 cost estimate. It was even asked at this meeting, like, where did that number come from? And the only thing that I could find was that was given was the internal document of with Preston and former staff members. And after going over these numbers, I don't really know that that was an accurate assessment. And so, because we've paid $43,000 for the SHN plans, I've heard feedback in it, and at the time I was also in that camp of, oh, well, this just must be over engineered, this is just over the top. But after, especially this last weekend, I did go over the plans, and Seth, my partner, he did really show me like what they were talking about as far as the compaction and how much material was going to be needing to be removed, and then the infill. And really, I think that and I know you guys are suggesting that we would be able to get away with less fill, but I don't see, even with the plans that are being presented with you guys, with the sports committee, the engineering is still going to be the same. And so I don't know that there's going to be a significant cost reduction on that aspect. However, there are some ways that we could reduce the cost as far as like where we're sourcing the fill. We did look into that as well, and that can be for further discussion. I do want to give Mike Bruno you an opportunity to come up and talk about what you guys have been doing. But beforehand, I would also like to, before we, how do I say? this project has taken up a lot of time of staff, and it has been going on for quite a while, and we do need to make progress on this project. And so a suggestion that I would like to make is that so that we can get some hard numbers on really what the SHN plans would be costing us, my suggestion is that we take these plans out for an RFP, a request for proposal for bid, so that we can get back hard numbers on what the price per square foot of this project. The price per square foot of the project isn't really going to vary really with no matter what size sports court we go with, or if we choose to go with one of these other plans, we're still going to, at least the board will be able to have a clearer understanding of the price per square foot of what we're looking at. I don't think we really have that right now. And I recognize that the SHN plans do fit into zone 5. And so there may need to be some altering to that with SHN as far as moving it down and forward a little bit. And maybe taking out the 10-foot surrounding area that is on the plans to reduce cost and the footprint. I guess I'm just saying that I would like to really get some hard numbers on the actual square. And by putting this out for proposal, it doesn't cost the district any money other than some staff time. And these plans, after going over them, they really are very well engineered. They're not over engineered for this particular location. And I think that even if we were to pick one of these other design plans, really only option 1, from my perspective, fits within the scope of work that was submitted to the state for this grant. The other ones, like the 2 added additional pickleball courts, I do like them, but I think we're adding more cost to this project by doing so. I mean, and hopefully I'm wrong, but what else do I want to say about that? I don't think we're going to be getting away from the saving too much more money on the cost of fill and whatnot, and the compaction requirements, even with another set of engineered plans. The other thing that was brought up at the committee meeting was is wondering, can we go with another engineer? I think a question that I have is, can we go with another engineer when this project was required to go out for bid? And at the time that happened, only SHN put in an application. And I do believe that other more local, like Barrett Engineering, they were reached out to and they declined to put in an application. So I'm wondering, like, are we even able to go to another engineer? There's talk of going to another engineer, but at this point, I don't know how that would affect the grant. And so I guess, yeah, it's kind of what I have to say about these options. And then the other thing added on top of this meeting was I believe last week. This is a lot of information, all the plans themselves, the numbers. There's a lot of information for the board to digest, to make a decision on these particular plans right away. And so if we were to put out the SHN out for for an RFP, that could also give, in the meantime, that could also give the board enough time to go back over the numbers that the tentative numbers that you have submitted, to really absorb the information that you're getting. Again, I don't see, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see how we're going to be able to cut corners on labor and material on this type of a project. I do really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I don't think that we're finished, you know, with trying to, with having you guys engage and help us with this project. But I would like to see some hard numbers as far as, you know, the potential, the cost per square foot, so we know what we're dealing with. And I don't think that was ever given with this number, the 281,000. Where exactly how those numbers came to pass, and those were the numbers that really scared people, and also being told that construction costs weren't included. So I guess I would like clarity on that, and before trying to pick a whole nother set of plans. That's my opinion.
So where did these numbers come from, Chris, that are for site plan 1 through 5?
From the efforts from the committee, the committee reached out to contractors, companies, businesses, individuals to estimate what things would cost, like build material.
Okay.
And,
I know the longer we wait, materials are going up, everything, I would like to get this built and done and over with. I mean, it's up to the board. It's up to the board, but.
And that's part of the issue, and I'm on the same.
It's gonna cost more the longer we wait.
Yes. And we have spent $43,000 on a engineered, insured set of well-engineered set of plans that I would like to follow up on, to see if it is actually cost prohibitive, or if it is something that we can actually move forward with that was actually submitted.
Who else got something to say?
Yeah, I will. A little frustrated, just because we've been working on this for over 3 years. And I think there was some misdirection taken by the subcommittee. The board had approved a plan, had approved a site, had approved everything going forward. What we were looking forward from that was help with the construction management, because that was one of our big costs. Basically help in reducing the cost of the current plan that we have. And now we basically, it looks like we're wanting to go back to square one of just evaluating the site and everything else. I mean, the site's been evaluated. We've had biologic surveys done, at least 2, I believe. We're still waiting on a 3rd, from what I understand. And so, yeah, I'm kind of, the numbers that I'm seeing here, sure, it looks encouraging, but again, it looks like the same kind of stuff that we were fed the first time, that, okay, we're gonna get this super cheap labor, or labor is already gonna be built into the cost with district staff, which we, then found out was not the case, that our staff hadn't even been consulted in whether or not they were able to do the cost or do the project. And so, I mean, I'm with Mike. I want to see something move forward. I mean, my youngest son is 19 next year, and he's the reason we moved to the Cove over 19 years ago. And the Cove has been needing this project since that time, as we got more and more families in here. So I hate just kind of just moving this ball along. And yeah, the original intent, the original direction from the board was pretty specific as far as reduction in costs, not a rethinking of the entire project. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I do appreciate the committee's work. I think it's great. I like the site plan for it. That's great. If we were able to get that in, I don't think we would be able to do that with the monies that we have available. And so, yeah, I guess a better explanation of basically how this is going to break down into that kind of money. I mean, we've already paid $44,000 to SHN for the plans that we have for the engineering. I mean, is somebody from the committee an engineer who's going to create us new plans that are going to be okay. I mean, has somebody already talked to the county as far as whether we can change out the sighting on it? From what I remember, there was a reason, because our original plans were to be going closer to that depression, to be going lower down, because there was thought of in the future having another court up higher. But I believe there was an issue with the drainage or with that depression, or even proximity to the airport. And I'm not 100%, but there was a reason the siting was changed and kind of moved further up more into what would be the middle of that zone. And so I don't know if what we're looking at here is just more shots of hope in the dark, that we're going to be able to just augment that site down to get it out of that zone 5, regardless of the cost on it. Oh.
I think, Mike, can you speak to what they were telling you at the county as far as having to move it out of zone 5?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to say it.
Yeah, please. Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Okay, so there was actually a number of people involved in the committee. So it's also Bruce Christie and Kurt Odra and Florentine, as well as myself. So first off, I agree with you. Our original task was look at these designs and see what you can do to reduce costs by engineering. And again, I'm a licensed civil engineer, and the other people on the committee are very experienced developers and contractors with many years of experience. First thing we saw was that the design that SHN presented was completely viable, and it cannot be done. They were not even aware that it encroached into zone 5, and so I would not throw any more money at that design. Now, having said that, there are some aspects of that design that are still usable with regards to footing and so forth. But that design cannot be pursued. And so what we then were forced to do was say, okay, how can we get a design that is viable and also lower cost? And that was really the prime motivation, in that Plan 4 will in fact reduce the fill quite a bit and the grade quite a bit, because you're not grading over a larger area. We're basically going to have a step down. And so that, and it's also 30% less surface area, so it's going to reduce cost quite a bit. I would not say that it was anticipated that volunteer labor was going to be involved in the grading or in the compaction or anything. That's still going to be done by contractors. We spent a lot of time talking to individual contractors, not just one, but 3 contractors for every single component. So I think these numbers are pretty decent. And then a lot of effort went into that by some very experienced people. So I wouldn't say that it's the same, pulled numbers out of the air as in the past. Okay, then the other thing is, where we are at this point is not making a commitment to go ahead with the project, not even finalizing a design. But in order to make progress, we need to submit a 1-page pre-application so that the county will come back to us and say, okay, we understand you want to do something here in this area. Give us this, and that. And we need to get to that first step. Now, with respect to answer your questions, with my conversations, I spoke with the planning department, county planning department, and I spoke with the aviation department. We will be getting another planner once it goes to the next stage. And but they basically said, let's get it out of zone 5, and then we're likely going to support this project. Okay, because they're in favor, actually, they do support themselves. there is an option, for example, you say, well, we just want to go with the original design that intrudes on zone 5. There is an option of asking for a variance, but that's going to take forever. And so, you know, maybe we want to go out with an RFP, but not with that original SHN design. That's just a waste because that just won't fly, in my opinion. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or give you a little bit more clarity on what we actually did.
So basically, I mean, all this is in the construction. So are you saying that you're willing to basically do the engineering and such?
Yeah, I should clarify. We have been doing the engineering and we've been doing the upfront permitting. So the savings on the engineering and permitting and site construction where there's $170,000 for the savings there. I mean, we've spent a lot of time already that SHN was going to charge for. And yeah, so that's the answer to that is yes.
So
the site plans we put, you know, we put together the first preliminary site plans and we put together more detailed plans. If we can get SHN to modify some of their things with that remaining, whatever it was, 17,000, that would be great. I'm not sure they'll be able to do that.
So that remaining 17,000 was committed to the surveys, the biologic surveys that were to be done, the wetland survey and the seasonal surveys.
And
the last.
One of my concerns, or I don't want to, because this is a state-funded grant, I don't want to cut corners on this project. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything in accordance to what the requirements of the grant. I feel like that there should be a way to look at these SHN plans and ask them to modify these plans to get to fit into, or to get it out of zone 5. I think there's some modifications that could be done in that respect. I do, like I said, I am sincerely grateful for the help that you've given and that you are going to continue to give. My question is, if we were to go with one of these other options, would you be putting your state license and insurance and bond on top of those plans so that we have that type of security? Because that's what these plans, the SHN plans are. And they, so that it's not just all on the district. I feel like after really, again, this hasn't been my favorite project, but I do want to see movement on this. So because it does affect, this grant does affect how, you know, or potentially could affect how we receive other grants that we need for larger infrastructure projects. And so I just want to make sure that the way we're operating with this is in accordance to the requirements for state grants. And I think that any set of engineered plans, even once we come up with the design, is still going to be very close to what SHN has done as far as the engineering with the footings and how much fill we're going to have to take out to really get a solid, to have a solid pad there. We may disagree on that, but I think just by us putting this out for a cost of proposal, it's not guaranteeing that we're just going with this set of plans, but it will give us a price per square foot as far as the labor and with the you know, a truer cost analysis of what this project is going to require. I did see some zeros on the as far as labor goes on the numbers that was submitted, and I just don't think that we are going to be able to do like using volunteers at that level. They have, and it does have to go out for bid. And so hopefully our local contractors, and I'm sure there are some that do prevailing wages and would be able to fit within that requirement to apply. But I would like to see some harder numbers personally, and I just hate to.
Okay, well, I'll step aside, but I will point out that I'm pretty convinced the grant is not tied to a specific design.
It is not.
Scope of work. Yeah, just the scope of work.
Okay.
I have just one question.
Get up there.
Yeah. The zone 5, why do they want it to be closer to the airport? If it's an airport deal, what's up with that? And why isn't it going along with the airport? Why is it at that angle? What is the zone 5? I can't grasp my head around that.
If you look it up, it has something to do with where recreation is allowed and not allowed. But I mean, I went and Googled that and was searching through all kinds of county records to find some of those things, because Tim had the same question when he was looking online at what was being presented today. And it's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's what they have out
there. Put a
there.
line, like, didn't even look at the airport.
Yep. But you can go there, it's on the county website, and it will tell you what each of the 5 zones are. I didn't write them down last night when we were looking at it. But yes, because it's going to be closer, it's out of wherever they're not allowed to have recreation. So maybe if they think a plane crashes into people in zone 2, or they're just playing pickleball, it's okay. I don't know.
You're close to the airport, you do your risk.
Yeah, I don't know, Arlen. That's a good question.
Yeah, I just don't understand.
That's kind of a county question, I guess, on how they made the aviation group, how they made that designation. But yeah, it's out there if you want to go read it. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the new airport land use restrictions.
Yeah,
basically the
AULC.
Yeah, it just came out. Yeah, which you can actually see the map on the GIS map on the ArcGIS from the county. You can pull up like the airport restrictions, and it'll show you basically where those lines go out, how they peel out towards affecting the marina and stuff like that. And I believe it's actually 6 different zones now. The new one has 6 zones. The historic had 5, and they added a 6th zone on this, and it just kind of changes where they may find hazards or whatever on that. I know we did have John Ford out here originally when all of that was being discussed, because we were already talking about putting the sports court there before the new airport regulations came on. And at that point, John Ford was favorable in going through it, seeing that we already had, because as far as regulations go, the part of the, I believe, clubhouse is in a use restricted area, but it's already in an existing use zone. Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily grandfathered, but we can prove existing use and historical use for this zone. And so that at least verbally, he said, at that point, of course, I'm not going to write anything down, but verbally at that point, he said he was favorable in allowing a project like this to go forward, even with the small area of the footprint being in a heavier restricted zone. So to what Mr. Bruno said, I don't think it would be ill-advised to go and do that 1-page kind of proposal to see if the county would be willing to change where we have the footprint at, if we wanted to change that, and the county is willing for that, if they would see that in a more favorable light. I don't think that would really hurt us. We don't really necessarily have to, we don't have to submit plans. We don't have to have anything. We don't have to have the engineering or anything done. Then we can at least know if, okay, yes, you can move it 20 feet closer to the airstrip and closer into that drainage. Unfortunately, I don't have all of my stuff from SHN from before, but there's something rattling around in there that there was a reason for that restriction. Because like I said, our original plan had been to kind of have that set for future development of a possible secondary court in the, that would be stepped up, that basically we would have the 2 courts stepped out. And again, there's something sticking in there about why they had to kind of move it a little bit further up from the airstrip. But again, that would kind of answer that question as far as if we can actually move it down, get it out of that zone 5, get close to the airport and into that drainage. I think it would be a decent first step and little cost incurred on that. So before we move forward with changing any kind of plans and engineering or anything like that, even changing the size of the existing.
Could we, along the same lines, also maybe contact John Ford to see if he remembers that discussion, so then we wouldn't have to move it? Or is that something not feasible? There, right?
I'm sure we could probably talk to him. I mean, that's really up on if Chris can get hold of him. He was the head of planning at that point. I believe he's still in that position. So yeah, but yeah, he was the county head of planning at that point. So.
Sounds like we're not in a situation making decisions right now then.
Well, we could maybe do 2 things.
Is that a question or a stretch?
Would it be possible to maybe pick one of these? Like I would go with, personally, I would go more within option 1 if we were going to be picking something that you guys were working, the committee was working on, because it just fits more into the scope of the project. But it still needs to be moved down accordingly, just a little bit, because it is a corner of it is in the zone. Along with putting out a cost of proposal, a bid, just to see where we are on a square footage. I know that you did talk with other local contractors. Again, I think we would get harder numbers if we just put it out there. Really get the true cost of the square foot.
So personally, I like site plan 4. It gives us more bang for our buck. And we just have to just tilt it and modify it a little bit. But this is way beyond my knowledge, but I would be inclined to go with number 4 personally. More options, so we don't have the issues with basketball versus pickleball. There's always at least one pickleball court available for them to play. And then if there's no one playing basketball, then they can use that other court as well. And I'm sure that'll all work itself out in the end. But I mean, for a few thousand more dollars, we're getting a second pickleball court out of the whole deal. We eliminate the zone 5 boundary issue, move this down. That's what I'd be inclined to go with.
I agree with you, and it looks good on paper, but you got to realize with this, there's elevation. And so that, this has it seamlessly right next to each other, but you're going to have a step. So we're going to have some kind of a wall. I mean, conceptually, this is great. And I agree with you. I would love to have the 2, more is better. I don't know if it's beyond conceptual there, because yeah, you do have a good elevation change. I mean, obviously the northern section of the large pad is going to be below grade of the southern section of that upper pad. So I mean, and this design here isn't showing any kind of
make it level. I'm no construction guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to have to be grading that entire thing, which is going to causing a lot more elevation.
Well, that's beyond my knowledge.
So yeah. And we do have a question if you want to step on up and.
Just one thing. like I said, I do like Plan 4. However, I don't see that saving the district money. That, I don't see it
Well,
like.
it's not saving money,
No,
but
but we're trying to, we don't even have, and even at the time that this was approved, we didn't have it in the budget to be able to even match the grant. So whatever doesn't fit within the grant, we're going to have to raise money for regardless. So we're just increasing our grants. That's my concern.
this is the wishes of a previous board. I'm trying to honor their wishes of the previous board and the community. Community wants this. I think we need to look at our best option and make a plan moving forward. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you. It is granting the wishes of a previous board in the community, which is why we.
Jeff, what do you got?
Got a comment?
I do.
All right.
I think the first part is that we threw about $43,000 away on engineering, whatever you value engineer on the way back in. Second part is, I know it's a grant, so we're getting money for it. My biggest question is, I think I'm more worried about pensions, fulfilling our pension obligation. How much at the end of the day do we have to match for this project? And do we have currently, does RID have the money to match this grant? And that's it. Dollars and cents. I mean, to me, I don't know that we have the money. And so we've already thrown away 43,000. How much more are we throwing away? Not saying that we don't need it. I'm not saying the community doesn't want it, because I think they do. But we have to live within our means.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
This grant probably should have been better thought out before it was accepted. And should have had a design and a way to go. I think it was accepted before it was even designated.
It was sought after and accepted before we even had a plan for what to do with the money.
Right.
The past general manager unfortunately sought this grant on his own, received the grant, and then it was an afterthought of what to do with the money. I had been with him sort of seeking out other things. We talked about a mountain bike course up off of Willow Glen. We went out with several, Arlen's son came out with us, looking at sites and options, and this seemed to be the best option for what we could do and what we could do with that money. Unfortunately, the board was kind of misled with, numbers and everything else at that point without having, actual backup. Now we've got this grant. We don't want to non-perform on it because that can definitely, hinder you from being able to get grants in the future. So now we're trying to do the best that we can to basically complete this project going forward. I can't speak solidly to the match. I know it's not a large match.
But I would say that he's staring down. Because you do not have the money.
Can we have staff comment on that, please?
The match portion reported was approximately 52,000, and that 43,000 was already
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that means I need to limit your options. You need to go this far.
Quick comment just from my personal experience doing large projects in the RID is we 100% need a project timeframe or tracker, some sort of system you guys can track. There's different charts out there. That way you guys can keep track of it. When the board switches over, you guys can pass that information on. Where are we at with these larger projects? And then the second thing is looking future wise, and with the golf course, a lot of our recreation is in this airport zone. Mm-hmm. And so if we wanted to get permits, like to redo a golf hole, everything needs permits. We're finding out the hard way with fire department. So if you guys ever wanted to get permits in the future and something comes up where this is in one of these zones, knowing how to get a variance or the process, or is it impossible? Is it something? Most of the variants you go through the county board of supervisors, they sponsor, they vote on a meeting. Whether or not it goes your way, that's up to your case. But knowing that what we have, including labyrinths and other things that are going in this area, which is one of our flat areas of useful land, we need to know what the process is for that, right? The fire station back in the day, the picture in my office was in this exact same location, right? In the 70s, they're going to build a big full-time paid fire station with 3 bays. They paid for an engineer to draw it all up. It's this beautiful hand-drawn, artistic rendering of it, of all of our failed projects. But we're repeating mistakes going all the way back to the 60s, 70s without actually being able to track that down. And there's no, history of a lot of those things in there. We just find on that wall right there behind in our gym, there's a pickleball and tennis court and everything else from like 2004 or 5 of another project that we have no tracking on. So we need to stop doing these. So that would be my recommendation to the fire department from our project as well as back here. We ran into it with previous jail managers of our permit process. Wasn't being tracked adequately, and that was something that as the fire chief, we dropped the ball on of not asking difficult questions about where our permits were, and we were getting told they were coming, and it led to a whole year. So, and these environmental studies too are time frame. So if you skip one, then you got to wait till the next season, and then it pushes off that grant and that project for a year. So I know for myself, Chris, if we're having other groups help us on that, tracking them, it becomes more and more difficult when he's tracking 3 other grants. So if there's systems out there that you guys like and you guys want to see from us, then you guys have to let us know. We like to, how to visualize how you guys can track it.
And again, you guys are putting it right on top of the horseshoes, and they do show up every week, strong force. So
I think that was the grandfather recreation that they were talking about at me. They're using it for worship already.
So could it be beneficial then I would just like to know that this 281,000 and something cost that we were given, like how that was actually come up with, and if that's even a true number before we just throw away the SHN plans. And by, again, the only way to really do that is if we put it out for an RFP. At the same time, I also think that it might be beneficial to follow up with John Ford or the county to see, like, well, we were told initially when we started this project that we would be able to do it because it was being grandfathered in. And I don't know, maybe the committee, the informal committee that didn't have access to that information. And so I'm just wondering maybe if office or the staff can follow up on that, or if that seems like a good idea that I'm kind of looking at you, Jeff, because you've been involved with this since the beginning. And so I'm really not trying to throw any wrenches into this project at all. I'm really wanting to make sure that that we do that the project is done in a manner that isn't going to require much more maintenance. And after the SHN plans were explained to me, I don't see it being overkill. I see it being a very solid foundation for a project that's going to last many years without as much maintenance. We could maybe go with a thinner pad, but then we're going to have cracks where we may potentially have more maintenance. So in the future. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm really not trying to put a wrench into this at all. I just want to make sure we're not just, I know you're saying we threw away $43,000. And then also one more thing, and is that it was identified the 50% advance on the grant. What that also means, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it means that we also have to have the funds to finish the project at that same time. Like it has to be shovel ready, correct? To receive that 50% advancement, it needs to be shovel ready. We need to be ready with the funds to move forward with the project.
Sue had mentioned that you can have a time frame with that upfront cost and the reporting, so everything should be in line to you get that upfront cost when you're ready, shovel ready to
Ready
get
to
that
roll.
project in. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. As I was saying, it may be beneficial for the district to go ahead and do as Mr. Bruno was saying, to submit to the county basically an augment or wherever, whether we want to augment or use existing footprint or whatever, or site, I should say, not even footprint, because the plans have a footprint. We want to go forward with the existing footprint that we have, since we do have those engineered plans, but we want to augment its positioning, maybe submit that to the county to see if that's, if we're going to get friction for where it hits into zone 5 or whatever, then we can kind of logically and knowledgeably move forward with whether we need to reduce the size of the project, have whether it be SHN augmenting the plans we have on hand, or having somebody draft up new plans. But right now we're kind of going on speculation of a lot. And then I think once we know yes or no that you can do this footprint, or no, we want you to augment or whatever, then we can kind of add those changes and then get a request for proposal knowing the true cost. Because right now, as we're looking at what is basically an NBA size court, like a full size court. I agree, it doesn't necessarily have to be an NBA size court. It's a lot of court to run. So, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that big. But right now it seems like we're, kind of looks like we're even in question as far as where we can place that in, our location. Once we know that, we can kind of get a figure of our true pad size, and then we can get a better square footage adjustment or assessment. And then, yeah, that's basically where we would be able to move forward, knowing an actual true cost on it. But as of now, and we're still just kind of like, okay, this is where we would like it, but we don't know if we're going to be able to. And then we'd at least know if we're going to hit some friction with the planning department and have to talk to Michelle Bushnell to try and encourage on a variance, or if we're just going to have to do some site adjustment, if that would be fine or what. But yeah, at least then we would have some knowledge going forward. Michael, you have another?
Just to follow up.
Yeah, please.
With this pre-application, we can submit essentially the plan 1, which is essentially the original scope, the original design.
Yeah.
Just scale down a little bit, plus plan 4.
Okay.
And have a discussion with them. That was one of the options we talked about, is just going ahead with the original one and letting them say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
But since we've already had that discussion, by the way, that's the lead planner there is Rod Leaf now.
Rod Leaf, okay.
Yeah.
So
and they discussed it with the director.
Okay.
I wasn't in that meeting with the director, but they discussed it with the planning department director. And so at this stage, again, we don't need to present construction drawings. We don't need to present engineering drawings. It's really saying, okay, we're going to put it here next to the parking lot of the community center. And we have this overall original proposal. And if it's necessary, we can modify it to get out of zone 4, but you guys tell us. And to your point, Nick, it might actually be worthwhile further pursuing this option of asking for a variance and seeing what's involved in that, because it might come up again.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Right. So that's what I would suggest. Go ahead and send in a 1-page application, maybe with both of these plans. Like 4 and 1 basically, and let them tell us, okay, you're gonna need this, this, and that. There was a question of whether we need another biological survey. To address your tracking issue, we had put together a very detailed Microsoft project management plan with that includes a lot of details on tasks and dates, and that includes permitting issues and bidding issues and contracting issues. So we can pass that on. And then finally, Arlen's going. Horseshoes, I did talk to the horseshoe people, Spencer, and the group, and they thought this was a good idea. What we offered is at the pickleball club, prior to anything happening with the basketball and pickleball, that we could shift their courts and make them better for them. So basically, move the horseshoe pits improve them with backstop and so forth. We would take on that task, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally, I mean, you could, you got the bocce ball court that is very underutilized, I believe, and that's another spot that possibly the horseshoe court. Oh, actually, Michael, I'm sorry to ask you to come on back, but could I get you just another question for you? As far as, sorry, let me get it back in my head, threw me off with horseshoes. Project management, is that something that members of the committee, because that was a big expense. That was one of the biggest expenses that we were looking to augment, and that is a necessary requirement for the grant. Not necessarily, I don't believe it's a necessary paid position for the grant, but for the grant reporting, we do need that. Is that something the committee would be able to provide?
Yeah, we would take on the task of the project management and the permitting and the grant reporting.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And thank you guys for all your work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do appreciate it.
Okay, can we move this ahead with which way we want to go? I think it makes a lot of sense if we're going to submit the one, which is basically the SHN, and 4 on a 1-page that doesn't cost us anything. There's no reason not to do it. And we're not committing to anything other than information which we need.
Right. I personally think that's the best way to move forward. Then we at least start out at an informed base foot and can move forward from there, and then be able to estimate our costs off of a real project, not just still a mythological.
I think I think that's the best way we can go. If we're in a consensus on that.
I agree.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we have to do some kind of vote on it or if we can just task.
If we want staff to do something, we're gonna have to make a motion.
The task them to do. Mike, you're so good at motions.
Well, I don't know about that. Jack's better.
Okay, Jack.
That's what I'm hearing, but that's convoluted. And you say it's a pre-plan?
It's a 1-page application to give them the idea of what we're.
All right. I would make a motion to authorize staff to submit the 1-page plan for site plan for the original site plan and number 4 to the county to see what further steps they may require, or if they would approve either one for the sports court.
I'll second that.
Aye. Eric Hargreaves,
Aye.
David Summer,
Aye.
Michael Solari,
Aye.
Brenda Ruby.
Aye. Okay, is there any unfinished business?
Sorry,
Come on up to the mic there.
I wasn't sure what time I was supposed to be bringing up a concern around the property around the labyrinth. I didn't hear.
The public comment is usually at the
Can
beginning. But
I take 2 minutes just to bring this before the board? We live around the labyrinth, and we noticed a lot of people coming across our property instead of going to the parking lot. Sorry, I have to have cheese. And then let the dogs run around on our property, kids playing. And one problem that we're gonna get, then we get hurt on the property and to us. We put logs around the property, and people just climb over them and don't go on anywhere. So we just want to see if there's a way that whoever's in charge of it can do something to keep people off our private property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start.
It's Scarf. That's unfortunately, we can't really, do action on that, but that is definitely something that can be reached out to Scarf, I would assume. And see if they could put up maybe some language on there. I hate to see signage go up everywhere. But I think that's definitely something that they could, put up the,
one thing.
respect the neighbors type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Or put a sign up or something, you know.
No,
something to
that's
stay
what I
away.
mean, yeah.
I have one thing to say before we close out today. Jack, you will be greatly missed. And I really appreciate everything you've done, and, you know, you've helped me understand the district, and I thought we worked together really well. So you will be greatly missed, and thank you.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Hope to see you in the meeting.
All right, like I said, you won't be getting rid of me. I'll just be on the other side of those doors or sitting in that seat when he can't do it, so.
But at least you're pursuing your passion. You always see a grin on your face when you come back from those assignments.
Can I just remind you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's probably got a bunch.
Yeah. I think it's unloaded a lot.
I brought in a bunch a while ago. All right.
But they're such good quality binders.